And I won the Mimeoplasm event. I am the Slime King. Welcome back to Colors of Crutch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I'm joined by the incredible Max P, the Florian, the Talion man. We're coming back to you right after Punt City 3, and we have a lot to talk about today. How you doing, Max?
Dude, I'm glowing, man. I'm feeling so good. So good. It was such a good weekend. We had so much fun. And, Punt City 3 was no disappointment. Top Deck, our sponsors, put on a great event. Huge turnout. 186 people showed up. It was a blast from the moment we walked in the door. LobbyCon all night long, every single night. The tournament itself was mostly smooth. There was like one hiccup going into the last round on the first day, but other than that, the pairings and everything were nice and smooth. And spoiler alert, both Max and I we did pretty well. We did pretty well. We did top 4. We didn't win the event, but we both made top 16. I was on Talion, he was on Kinnan, and we did it, man.
I was almost on Talion.
Oh, you were torn to the last second.
I was so close. I was asking people before the player meeting what I should be playing.
Yeah, down to the wire. Down to the wire. I remember
I submitted my deck in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. You any regrets? You feel good about it?
No, I don't regret it. I mean, it was. We'll get into it. Round 1, just pushed all of my concerns about playing Kinnan to the maximum, where I was like, no, and then it was just perfect afterwards from then on out. I am still recovering from a tired perspective. I mean, I flew in on Thursday to go hang out with Mikey and people. I was on 1 hour sleep before my flight, slept a couple hours on my flight, was up all day with them, got a medium sleep that night, and then Friday was up till late with people, and then went to the event. And then Saturday was up till 3 something a.m. with people.
No, it was later than that.
And then
it was later than that. It was later than that.
I came home.
I went to bed at 2:45, and I could hear you guys still going at it downstairs even after that. So.
Well, no, Saturday was me and Willie were at the venue.
Oh, I'm thinking Saturday. I'm thinking Sunday night. I don't remember what day was what anymore, dude. No. It's all blurred together. Yeah.
And then Sunday I stayed up till 6:30 in the morning. So
yeah.
We're so alive right now, man. We're killing it.
And after I got to tell you, after playing that much Magic for 4 days, after all of that, you know what I really feel like doing right now?
Playing Magic.
Yeah,
100%. I'm taking a weekend off. Next weekend, I think instead of playing in a tournament, I'm gonna go just watch UFC at my friend's house and have a barbecue.
Nice.
I think that'll be a good little break, because then I have the Salt. I have the Salt Monolith, the SaltFest, right after that, the following week, April 20th. That's gonna be an awesome event. Which, if you haven't signed up, it's in Orlando. It's got a lot of space left. It's gonna be so sick. Definitely check out SaltFest down in Orlando if you can. Yeah. Other tournaments coming up we should probably talk about. Snowy Summit in Colorado in July. That one's going to be an awesome event. We'll have a link to that in the description below as well. We'll also put a link for the SaltFest one, so you can find all those. You have your event, your LGS event's going to be their first 64-person one in Virginia, same day as SaltFest. So if you're a little northern on the East Coast and don't want to be in a potentially 200-person event, you want to be in a 64-man, go see Max P over in Virginia. That'll be sweet. That's kind of the basic one. Path of the Peak is next weekend. The online events are just it's
really
downhill right now. No one is playing in them. Pantheon was 30 people. The whatever Treasure Series or whatever was the week before was 29 people.
Yeah. Although I'll give some credit to Chaos. Chaos and his whole crew showed up for Punt City 3 just to be present and touch base with the community and so on. So I give some credit to them for doing that and trying to reestablish some credibility, because there's I think some lost over the last all the drama and incidents that happened over the last few months. So they're definitely trying.
Yep.
Yep. So there's some credit there.
I just think we need less online events so they feel special again.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we're going to be pretty straightforward today. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk through our rounds at the event. We're going to talk through Max's rounds in the Mimeoplasm event, which we'll explain in a few minutes.
Dude, I gotta talk you through my rounds in a Berio Kart competition, my guy. Like, this is a good night.
There was LobbyCon. There was, the food. There was nothing exciting about the food, I don't think, other than, we went to a place called Your Mom's Place, or I went there for breakfast, and then we found a better place later. But yeah,
Glory was fantastic.
Glory was fantastic. Yeah,
Glory was fantastic, and that Asian place, Miju Asian Bistro, I went to in the last day where I got that unagi bowl. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was so good. That was really good.
Yeah. All right. So the stats. We'll start with the stats, right? So Punt City 3 was in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. 186 players. 7-round event over 2 days with a cut to top 16, top 4, and winner. And it was stacked with talent. Stacked. I mean, we had Memo fly in from Germany, as well as a few other people coming from Europe. We had Zane, we had, Brian Koval was there. Shauna was there. Her brother Steven was there. I mean, it was stacked. Everybody you could think of showed up for this event, and they showed up
pretty much
ready
everyone
to go.
In, like, the top 100 of the leaderboard was there.
Yeah, yeah. And
except the people who couldn't get a ticket.
Yeah,
it was probably the most stacked. Yeah,
and there was a line at the door of people hoping for tickets, and they did a little lottery before things started to give a few extra tickets out. And you can tell the story about the rock paper scissors.
Yeah. So one of my buddies from the Play to Win Discord, Cart, was supposed to be going to this event with us, and he messaged me like the night before that he wasn't going to be able to make it, and I was like, okay, whatever you've got going on, I respect it. And we're sitting at our tables waiting for the pods for player meeting to go up. And the pods for player meeting jump up. And my buddy Nate, who was staying with us, also from Play to Win Discord, goes, "Oh, Cart's in my pod." And a light bulb just went off in my head. I was like, Cart's not coming. That's a ticket that's available. Varix and Naystrom are both outside and need a ticket. Immediately went and just ran and found them. And they were standing next to each other. And I just looked at them. I said, rocks, paper, scissors, best 2 out of 3 now. Because I can't just select one of them. So they looked at each other, and Naystrom looks Varix in the eyes and goes, "I'm picking rock." Rocks, paper, scissors, shoot. Picks rock. Var picks scissors. Naystrom goes, "Okay, I'm picking rock again." And they go, rocks, paper, scissors, shoot. And he picks rock again. He was being honest. And Varix picked scissors. And he won. I said, "Okay, come with me." Found Bali and got him Cart's ticket.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that detail of that. I knew they played rock, paper, scissors, but I didn't know that. Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. But yeah, so Naystrom made it in, which was fantastic. So, 186 total players. So, and they really, they worked hard to stack everyone into that room. It was like my only complaint is we ended up on some really skinny tables at some points in the tournament, which was annoying. But you know what? I was just happy to play, dude. I didn't even care. Honestly, I was just glad to be there. So, let's go through them. Let's go through round by round. Fuck it. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna talk first. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Save the best for last. It makes sense.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. But yeah, every single pod was stacked. I didn't have a single easy pod like the whole time. First pod was in first seat was Steven, who's Shauna's brother on Blue Farm, who's been on a tear lately. He's won a bunch of tournaments recently. Next to him in second seat was Lonus, which is something I didn't expect to see, but okay. I was in third seat on Talion, and then there was another Talion in fourth seat. I got off, so I took a bit of a gamble. My starting hand had a way to have a turn 1 Karn, but in order to do a turn 1 Karn, I was going to have to do a Mana Crypt and a Ancient Tomb to cast Karn, and it was a bit of a risk. But Steven tapped out, played a turn 1 Rhystic Study, I believe, and passed. And I'm like, all right. And he did it with a bunch of rocks. He did it with I think 2 other rocks. So I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Lonus didn't do a whole lot. Just played a land, a dork, I believe, and passed. So at that point, I went and dropped the card on the battlefield. And Steven responded immediately with a Force at Will, which kind of set the tone for the...
Got him.
Yeah, it set the tone for the whole match because Steven's like, yeah, you tried to play a Karn, and now I'm going to kick your ass. And he quickly got Crom onto the battlefield and proceeded to beat my face in turn after turn after turn. And just like my life total got dangerously low very quickly. And he was drawing cards and running away with the game. Next to me, the other Talion player just seemed to be content to just play lands and pass. He wasn't even playing rocks. He didn't even drop Talion. He was just kind of hanging out for most of the game. Eventually, he got Talion into play, but he just didn't do a whole lot the whole time. And, a couple times during the game, he flashed a mind break trap at me. So I knew that he had a mind break trap. I knew he had interaction. He was sandbagging it basically the whole time. So it got pretty late in the game. My life total was down to like 7, and Steven was swinging out a lethal at me. And I explained to the table, I'm like, look, guys, I'm going to die now, and then you're going to die. So you kind of have a choice here. Are you going to let that happen, or are you going to keep me in the game and I can try to do something to keep Steven in check? And it takes a lot of convincing because they seem really content to just let me die and let Steven win. But after a little bit, finally, the Italian player steps in and he deadly relics the Crom, and he pongifies. I don't remember what the other thing that was attacking me, but it was beating my face in. I had Talion at that point, and Talion provided the last block to keep me alive. At which point the game got a little bit crazy because I was looking to win. I got back to my turn. I had a Hullbreaker line set up.
You're such a dick. You're such a dick.
Yeah, so it gets back to my turn. I have a Hullbreaker line, so I drop Hullbreaker on the battlefield, and I start to go through the loop. But unfortunately, there wasn't a way to close it. So, all I could really do was clean the board up, play a bunch of rocks, bounce everyone's stuff, and pass the turn holding up the Hullbreaker Horror, with the intent of, just draw some cards and hopefully get to what I needed to close it, pretty soon. But pass the turn to Talion. Talion goes, I play this card called Flesh Duplicate. I also have a Hullbreaker Horror. I'm like, oh, great, cool. So I just, gifted the game to you. But it turns out he also doesn't have an outlet for the Hullbreaker Horror. So he goes and does the loop, bounces my whole board, and passes the turn to Steven. But he still has the Mind Break Trap in his hand. So Steven says, thanks, I survived. Now I'm going to win. And he goes and proceeds to try to set up to win with a breach line and runs right smack into, it wasn't even the Mind Break Trap, but a counterspell from Lonus. At which point, he was stone stopped, but he had one out in his hand, which was a Demonic Consultation. So he goes and casts a Demonic Consultation with the intent of getting a counterspell to push his breach line through. Now, I know that the other Italian player has a Mind Break Trap, and I also know that at this point, I've managed to draw a Meme Betrayal. Right? So if all I have to do now is get back to my turn and I should be able to win, I just need Steven to have this Demonic Consultation resolve, go get his pack that he's going to name, and have it get Mind Break Trapped, and I'm good to go. Well, the first card on top of his library was Pact. So he proceeds to exile his entire library, and then for some reason casts his fish and passes, which is almost like even worse now, right? Because if I cast a Demonic Betrayal into the fish, which I can't pay for the Demonic Betrayal and be able to do everything I need to do, he just draws a card and he dies, and then my Meme Betrayal goes nowhere, right? Lonus does nothing on his turn, gets back to my turn, and I look at the table and I'm like looking at the Italian player who, at this point, if I pass the turn to him, he's definitely winning. So I look at Steven and I said, Steven, I'm going to propose a draw, and you're the one in control of whether this becomes a draw or not. And I show him the Meme Betrayal, and I say, if I cast this Meme Betrayal, I can definitively win the game with your graveyard. But at any point during that process, you can simply choose to draw a card and end it. And I turn to the Italian player and I explain to him, you need to accept this draw right now, because if you don't accept this draw, I'm going to win and he's going to let me. So everyone kind of shrugs. We all shake hands. We accept the draw and move on. But it was pretty cool in the sense that, at that point, I was at 3 life. At 3 life, okay? And 2 of my lands were Ancient Tomb and City of Brass. And, I could have cast the Meme Betrayal and paid for the fish, but I'd have to tap Ancient Tomb and Brass to do it. So I would just die. It was just stuck at a razor's edge of snatching defeat, or snatching a draw from the jaws of defeat. So crazy game. So
You got there though.
I'm happy with it. I felt like it could have been a lot worse.
My round 1 was not super enjoyable. I got to start off in 4th seat, always fun. And my concerns with Kinnan going into this tournament, like the whole reason I was considering Talion was there's just, I've heard there's so much Kinnan hate right now. No one will ever let your Kinnan live. Everyone will deal with you even when you're not the problem. And I was like, okay, sure. So my round 1 pod on the play is Scoop. Very well-known Krark Sokka player, has a Krark sleeve playing Krark Sokka. In 2nd seat, we have Malcolm Bile Smasher. In 3rd seat, we have Kenrith. And in 4th seat, we got me coming up the rear. If you're ever against Krark Sokka on the play, I will not keep a hand that does not have some sense of removal for Krark. Why would you ever do that? You just concede to lose if you do not have removal for the Krark. So I mulled a 6. There's a Thorn Mammoth that I can get to on turn 3, and I'm like, maybe that's enough. I'm in 3rd seat anyway. 2nd seat and 3rd seat, or I'm in 4th seat anyway. 2nd seat and 3rd seat both kept first 7. So my expectation with them on first 7 is they probably have removal for the Krark anyway. I'm like, okay, maybe this will do enough. He had a nutty Krark Sokka draw. Turn 2, he has Harmonic Prodigy and Krark on the battlefield. Like he's got us just dead to fucking rights. And we proceed to lose on his turn 3, or maybe it was turn 4. Like my Kinnan got blown up twice, immediately. I played Kinnan, recast Kinnan, got immediately killed both times. I was like, okay. And what I learned after we just got completely cooked in this game, I asked my opponents, I was like, you guys kept first 7. Did you have nothing for Krark? And the Kenrith player was like, oh, I'm on 0 counters all creature combo. I don't have removal for Krark. And I was like, okay. And I looked at Malcolm Bile. I'm like, you're in 2nd seat, first 7. You didn't keep removal for Krark? And he goes, I didn't think I'd be able to beat them anyway, so I just decided to not bother trying to deal with them.
Oh boy.
And I was like,
oh shit.
So you just you just conceded to lose the game before we started. I don't know. I was a little frustrated because I was not mad at them, but I was just like, how is this what I'm dealing with? And then I, Waffle comes over to be like, hey, just won my round 1. My opponent went land Dark Ritual Moat on turn 1, and I'm like, yo.
Oh my god, yeah, I heard that. Yep.
Oh we were in different pods. We were in different pods, bro.
Yeah, I remember you coming to me right afterwards. You're like, I made a huge mistake. I should have played Talion.
I should have played Talion.
Yeah,
because if I was on Talion, that doesn't happen. I have removal for Krark. I have counters for the bullshit, and this just doesn't occur. 4th seat Talion. I'm not saying I win that game, but it's a game. So that was super frustrating, and I went into round 2 feeling not super excited to be playing Kinnan, which I'm excited to talk about.
No, go to it. Go to it now. We'll snake. You go ahead and talk about it.
We'll snake. Sure. My round 2 is unequivocally. What's the correct way to pronounce that?
Unequivocally.
Not unequivocally?
No, unequivocally.
Okay. Leave all this in. I don't care. Okay. Unequivocally, the most free win I have ever gotten in a tournament in my life. I was on the play. Felt great to be on the play. I'm not even going to say what the other decks are because I don't know what they were because we didn't even play a game of Magic. I just won a game of Magic.
You just sit down, they scooped, they rolled up their bats and oh, you're wounded satellite. Let's go home.
This was a 5-minute. This was a 5-minute game. I walked up to you and you asked if we drew or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And my starting hand, I kept first 7, was 2 mono blue lands. It was Seagate and Cephalid or something like that. Maybe it was Manamo and Cephalid. 2 mono blue lands? Soul Ring, Spellskite, Trinisphere, Mirage Mirror, Tezzeret. So my plan for that hand is turn 1, land, Soul Ring, Spellskite. Turn 2, Trinisphere. If I hit a green land, then Kinnan into Trinisphere using a Soul Ring, which is better, but if I hit the green land. Otherwise, just turn 2 Trinisphere. Turn 3, as long as I've drawn a land in the first 3 draws. Tezzeret, 1 ring. Grind out the game with Tezzeret Trinisphere, with 1 ring Trinisphere, which is a very high percentage.
Yeah,
high
absolutely.
percentage line.
Yep.
So I look at that hand, I'm like, gas, I don't need Kinnan for this game. That's fine. My turn 1 top deck was Mana Crypt on the play. So I get to go land, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Trinisphere on the play. I was like, great. Turn 2, everyone land pass.
Yep.
Turn 2, top deck, fetch land for green source. Cool. Green source, Kinnan, Spellskite. Cool. Everyone plays a land. Passes back to me. Now, at this point, to be clear, I already have deterministic win in hand because I have both Tezzeret and Mirage Mirror. But just for the LOLs of the deck saying sorry about last round, my top deck on turn 3 was Basalt Monolith.
Aw, your deck loves you. It felt so bad. He felt so bad. He wanted to pay you back.
It's like sorry, bro, sorry. So yeah, I went land. I went turn 1 on to play land, Mana Crypt, Zorg, Trinisphere. Everyone plays a land. Turn 2, Kinnan, Spellskite with the land. Everyone plays a second land. Turn 3, untap Assault Mirror. GG's, guys. Literally took 5 minutes. Fastest game I've ever played.
Amazing.
And I was like, cool. We don't get free wins on Talion, so it felt good to just get a free win on Kinnan after I was mad at Kinnan. It was like, in case you forgot, though, we're like the only deck in the format that can play a Trinisphere and immediately win. Like,
yeah, and not give a fuck. Yeah,
not give a fuck about it.
100%. Yeah, my round 2 was a win, but it was not an easy win. It was a typical Talion grind fest, which was a theme for the entire event for me. Every win was like a hard fought game, every single one, and this one was no exception. And I was going against one of the best CEDH players I know, and that was Snake, sitting in second seat on his Necrom deck. First seat was Dargo Thrasios, and in fourth seat was a Tivit deck. Poor Dargo Thrasios mulled super low and kept I think it was like a 3. His turn 1 play was land, Ragavan, pass, and I'm like, cool, no problem with that. Snake took his turn, developed just some mana a little bit, and passed to me. I go turn 1 Talion, pass, which is feeling pretty good, right? Tivit goes turn 1 Fish. I'm like, it feels a little worse. Comes back around, Dargo Thras swings over and hits Snake, does a little bit of damage. I don't remember, it was like a land, River off the top, no big deal. And Snake takes his turn and proceeds to play his own fish trigger on the other side. I flash in a Bowmaster, right? And Bowmaster trigger, I go to point it at the Ragavan, at which point the Dargo Thrasios, he played Thrasios on turn 2. He did play Thrasios because he goes and, oh no, he didn't. No, he cracked his treasure, tapped his 2 lands, and hard cast a deflecting swat because he's hell-bent. He's determined now to defend his Ragavan, which I'm like, wait, stop, pause for a second, okay? First of all, fish trigger on your deflecting swat. I'm gonna get a ping anyway, and your monkey is still gonna die. So, and you want me to have this Bowmaster right now because you've got a fish over there and you got a fish over there, and this Bowmaster is the only thing that's gonna keep these other 2 guys in check on the draws. So you really don't want to kill this. You do not want to kill my Bowmaster. I won't even point it at you. I'm gonna leave you alone. You've got nothing going on. I'm not gonna point any of these Bowmaster triggers at you. They're all going at these guys over here.
Well, after you kill his Ragavan? Or
after I kill his Ragavan, of course I'm not going to lose this Ragavan. Come on.
Couldn't let him have a Raggy?
Come on.
It's a little monkey, bro.
Come on. You can't have the monkey.
Just a monkey.
You can't have the monkey.
Let him have a Raggy. I would have let him have a Raggy.
But he understood, and the argument was correct. I mean, if he kills my Bowmasters, then the draws get out of control, and we end up losing that way. So he agrees. And it's one of those things where the deflecting swat hasn't resolved yet. Yes, he declared the target of the deflecting swat, but not where the redirect is going to go. So I convinced him to put it on Snake's face, which is where, spoiler alert, every ping from then on was going right at his face. Right? So poor Snake got his fish on the battlefield and proceeded to pay for it for turn after turn. Because I went full on the attrition plan, just put everything I could into reducing Snake's life total as much and as quickly as I could. And I basically left the Tivit player to its own devices, and I left Dargo Thras, who was basically had nothing going on alone. Tivit couldn't really develop very effectively. I don't know what he was keeping or what was going on. He just couldn't get going much, and eventually had to let the fish go. He didn't have the mana to pay for it. And I just beat Snake's face down to the point where every single Talion trigger, he had to really try to find a way to work through the lines to be able to do anything. He managed to get his own Bowmasters and kill my Bowmasters, which was great. Good job. I immediately followed that up with a Vamp Tutor for an Imposter mech. Played my Imposter mech, killed his Bowmaster, proceeded to put pressure on him. Turns went by.
Why not just Vamp for meme bet?
It would not have won at that point. Trust me.
Okay, sure.
It would not have won. It would not have gotten there. And
he sounded late enough in the game that I'm like, you probably could have just won.
Well, he kept trying. He kept trying to get there. I think he got to like 3 life and realized that anything he tried to do at that point, he was instantly dead because there was going to be a draw that would ping him in the face and a Talion trigger that would just kill him. So he just passed the turn. At which point, by By the way, in my hand at that point, I had a Shieldred that I just wasn't going to play because I was holding up all my interaction to make sure that my position on the board stayed, and I didn't want to tap out for it. And I drew off the top a Time Twister. Right? Cast a Time Twister. We rolled our hands away. I finished off Snake. I removed everyone's board. I killed the Tivit player and left Dargo Thrasius with a fresh 7 and like 25 life. Right? He did some things that I countered, went back to my turn, swung out, and killed him. Game over. So, pure Talion attrition game.
Got him.
Got him. It was great. It was great. So, went there, moving on to round 3, which I'll jump right into. I was on stream. And God, I hate being on stream. I hate it.
I want to talk about that. For a second.
Sure.
Why do you hate being on stream? Honestly,
I just feel.
What is it?
I feel more pressure. I don't want to embarrass myself even more. Like people are gonna see me and like I'm gonna suck and make stupid mistakes and like get all that caught on camera. And like it just I get in my own head.
I love being on stream.
God, I hate it.
I want that pressure. Does that not lock you in, man?
No. And you know what the worst thing is? Here's the worst. You know who's in first seat? Ori.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah. Oh, he was in third.
Ori's a rough matchup.
He wasn't even in first. He was in third seat, but it felt like he was in first seat because it's Ori.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Ori's
but
very
still,
good. Ori's very, very good.
Yeah, but you know, so he's in third seat, and Charles Magyar, who's a judge. He's well known as a judge. He's judged lots of CEDH events.
I know who this is.
Yeah. On his Jhoira deck, and that Jhoira deck is no joke. Let me tell you, that Jhoira deck is sick. So we'll put a link to it in the description because it's worth checking out. But Hellpod. I don't remember who the first player was, but
it was someone named Blake Jhoira on the play. Let me find his deck real quick. Blake Jhoira was on Malcolm Tana.
Yes, Malcolm Tana, right. But he didn't have a whole lot going on in that game. What happened was pretty funny. At one point, he had Malcolm in play, and there was a Codex Shredder in play on Jhoira's board, and he made the mistake of worldly tutoring for Glinthorn with the Codex Shredder in play, which promptly milled it into his graveyard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that he kind of blew himself out of the game very quickly. I got very unlucky with my mulligans. I ended up mulling all the way down to 4. Okay, and my 4 was fetch land, Mana Vault, Shieldred's Edict. It was
turn 2 Talion.
It was turn 2 Talion, and it was with the Shieldred's Edict as a tempo play to try to see if I could buy a little time and stay in the game.
Second seat, turn 2 Talion on a mull to 4. That's fine.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. So anyway, I do the normal thing. I turn 2 Talion comes into play. I put it on 1, knowing what Jhoira does. So if you guys if you guys aren't familiar with Jhoira does, Jhoira plays a ton of 1-drops that become 0-drops as a Cheerios deck. And every time they play an artifact, they're drawing cards. So they're going to play a lot of 1-drops. So Talion on 1 is really strong in this game, and it's really inevitably the reason why I ended up winning. But in any case, on turn, I believe it was turn 2, right after I drop Talion onto the board, Ori ad nauseous, main phase ad nauseous, taps out main phase ad nauseous from like 37 life, right? And just gets the saddest Nas you've ever seen. Just saddest Nas. It's terrible Nas. And he's like, what? What? There can't, I just need 1 mana rock. There's got to be a mana rock in here somewhere. He's going and his life's going away and the life's going away. And I'm like, at one point I reach out to him like, dude, Ori, wait, listen, you're at like 13 life. Okay, I've got a Talion on board. You're gonna die. like stop. Like save yourself. And he's like, nah, I gotta go. So he keeps going, and then finally flips. I think it was a deflecting swat off the top and at 3 life, and poof, goes away.
So I will say, like, once you're at that point that you're around 10 life with the Talion on board, if you've hit nothing, I go till I kill myself there. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, well, this was at like he was at like 15 life, and I told like 15, 13 life somewhere in there, which is like to me was like the break point. After that, it's too late. You just keep going. But that was like the last chance to stop, in my opinion. And but I totally appreciate what he did, because like if he hits a 0 mana rock, he might just win there, right? So it's totally worth it. But he didn't. He died. Right, and then he goes to look at the last card, like the next card, Mox Opal. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, That's the way it works. So, dude, Ori, I love you, man. I'm sorry.
I'll never forget when I first started playing ROG Psy, like one of my first ever games on ROG, I nosed from literally 40 life, and I whiffed. And I was like, that's bullshit. And so I literally said, hold up, I just need to double check this. Shuffled my deck back together again, including the entire nos, and nosed from 40 again, and whiffed again. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
It happens, dude. It happens. Especially because sometimes Blue Farm is not the best main phase ad nos deck. It just isn't.
It's just if you hit the pieces. Like the same thing, like Ob has an above average CMC for a Nas deck, but like if you just hit Mana Rock, Breach, like okay, cool, you win. Like it doesn't. Yeah. It's just if you hit the pieces, you get there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he didn't make it. He died, and then we went into like one of the longest, craziest Jhoira turns ever, where Jhoira just does the Jhoira thing, goes off, plays like an Artificer's assistant. So now he's getting a scry with each draw off of each land, each artifact that he plays. And then he plays a Dockside. And Dockside isn't a crazy big Dockside. It's like 4 or 5 treasures. I don't remember what it was at that point, but played the Dockside. And, this was a misplay really on my part in retrospect, but like I was sitting on a mana drain and I'm trying, like I had 3 open mana and I also had a Tainted Pact in my hand. And I'm like, I can drop the mana drain on this right now, right? But I feel like if I do that, I'm out of interaction. And if they have any backup, I'm stuck, right? Whereas if I let this happen, I'm going to draw cards off Talion. I'm going to have more things to work with, and I feel more comfortable. And it wasn't a huge Dockside. It was just a decent-sized Dockside. I thought about it for a minute, and then I let the Dockside resolve, which in retrospect was a mistake because he didn't have backup, and if I had done that, it just would have stopped him. But at the same time, having said that, if I had stopped him there, I wouldn't have won the game, which I'll get to in a little bit. So in any case, Dockside resolves. He starts casting spells. And most of them are 1-drops. So I'm drawing, he's losing life. I'm drawing, he's losing life. And finally, he's like, I think he very quickly realizes that this is a problem, and he attempts to Otawara my Talion. But the problem is on the Team or Malcolm's players board was a Spellskite.
Spellskite.
Yep. So
anytime someone says, but there was a problem, it just means there's a Spellskite on board.
Yep. So Teamer player says, well, I'm not gonna let you in, so he bounces the Spellskite instead, and then continues to go off. At one point, he puts a defense grid into play. So I'm like, oh well, now we're really in trouble. So I go and I Tainted Pact for just to try to find something, and I end up finding a Mystical Tutor, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna stop here, even though this isn't enough, but it's. I don't remember my exact logic at the time, but at the time, the Mystical Tutor made sense as an answer to try to get rid of Jhoira. I think it was right before the defense grid came out. I don't remember the reason. But then he played the defense grid, and we were like, okay, now we're fucked. But we weren't fucked because the way the Jhoira works is very non-deterministic, right? You just got to play rocks and hope that they hit the right things. And he didn't. He went like 3 or 4 more cards, didn't hit the right things. And then he's like, well, I guess now is when we get chaotic, is the words he used. Now we're going to play chaos. And he casts Retract, right? Retract bounces all of his artifacts.
All artifacts back to his hand.
Yeah, so he bounced everything, including the defense grid. And at that point, I had everything. I had all the interaction I could possibly need. He goes to play some more, and I'm like, I let one happen so I could draw another card. He goes to play the next thing, and I just countered it. It's like a Soul Ring, like force of negged his Soul Ring, right? And then and then he does another 1-drop. At which point I cast the Mystical Tutor. I get a Deadly Rollick, draw the Deadly Rollick, kill the Jhoira. Now his turn's done. He can't do anything else, and he's forced to pass the turn. Discarding a bunch of goodies. His graveyard is stacked. Did you have a
meme bet by chance?
A meme bet? What's that? What's a meme bet?
I don't know. It's this really cool card that gives you access to your opponent's graveyard.
Yeah. I did have a meme bet. Yeah, and then that's where things got beautiful because the Team or Malcolm player was really locked out of the game at that point. I had played a Grafdigger's Cage, so there was no way he was going to get his Glenhorn back. All he had was Malcolm basically. Go to my turn, and I have to take like a good amount of time to really look through the graveyards because I'm trying to figure out the line to get there. There was a Worldly Tutor. There was, as it turns out, I think the easiest play would have been to just play the Glenhorn, clone the Malcolm, and then try to kill them that way. Although I'm not sure that would have worked without Ori and blockers and stuff. But in any case, I didn't do that. I go meme bet, right? I cast a couple of rocks from graveyards. I go and I cast a transmute artifact where I wait, was it transmute? Which one did I do first? I don't remember now. But in any case, I tutored. How did this work? Hold on, give me a second. Yeah. So remember, I had a Grafdigger's Cage in play. I think I even had a Grafdigger's Cage in play, and I really needed to get a Phyrexian Metamorph so that I could get rid of. So I could clone the Dockside that was in play, right? To get a bunch of mana. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember what tutor I used for it, but it was a tutor to the battlefield.
Transmute for Wishclaw.
No.
To get Metamorph.
No, because I didn't have. No, I did. God, I don't remember what the tutor was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it was. We'll look at it later.
I'm actually curious because I think you might have cheated.
I did
Metamorph
not cheat.
Does not work.
No.
Metamorph does not get through Grafdigger's Cage.
Correct. I cast Retract.
Yeah.
I cast Retract, which bounced all of my artifacts first, including my Grafdigger's Cage.
That's hot. That's hot.
Right. So I cast Retract to bounce all my stuff. Made some mana first, Retract, bounced my Grafdigger's Cage, tutored for using a to the battlefield tutor. I don't remember which one it was. It was not Transmute because I cast Transmute after that. So I tutored and put Metamorph onto the battlefield, cloning the Dockside. Then I used Transmute Artifact to sacrifice the Metamorph to get a Imposter back to copy the Dockside again. I had, at that point, I think 14 treasures, something like that. I cast a Worldly Tutor from the team of Malcolm's player's graveyard, put Hullbreaker Horror on top of my library, cast a One Ring, tap the One Ring, draw the Hullbreaker Horror, play the Hullbreaker Horror, start the loop, draw my deck, win the game.
Easy.
It was bonkers, and it was all on stream. So all of my trepidation and panic and anxiety, none of that fucking mattered. I did it, and it was a beautiful line.
Wait, you're telling me that you won your stream game with a Hullbreaker Horror?
I won my stream game with the Hullbreaker Horror, and the best thing about it, Scoots was doing the casting on it, and he hates Talion. He hates Talion. So watching him trash Talion the whole time, and then have to admit at the end that Talion deck, that worked. That was pretty good.
It gets there.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. So yeah, how'd you do on round 3?
Round 3, I was in a very interesting pod. It was myself versus a Timnatana deck that I quickly hypothesized as a Hulk version, just based on what he was doing. Into a Timna Thrasios Infect deck.
Oof.
You heard that right.
Oof.
Which honestly, he showed me the list afterwards. It's kind of hot. It does a lot of really cool things. It's not too many cards committed to the Infect plan where it's a bad deck. It's just a few really good ones. It has the Glistener Elf. It has Blighted Agent, which is an unblockable attacker for Timna anyway. So it kind of does a lot of good things in that regard where it worked a little bit. And then it was just on a few cards. It was on that one board wipe that gives all your opponents a poison counter, and then all of their creatures get -1/-1 for each poison counter they control. So it's a one-sided board wipe for 3 mana. There were some kind of really solid cards within that strategy, and then a couple that were very, very suboptimal. There was one 4-mana Drake thing, which was his infinite proliferate combo because it has a proliferate outlet and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But it was getting there. It was doing a lot of infect damage to us. It got a little bit scary. Last person in the pod was Samurai Dancer on his normal Malcolm Kedis list. Really accomplished Malcolm Kedis pilot, has won tournaments on it. Definitely a formidable appointment from that regard. Do not disrespect that deck. That is a deck I put a lot of respect on. If people don't respect it, they get dunked on. And yeah, I mulled a 5 on this one, and I think I kept a hand that was just mana was the main regard there. I just wanted mana, and I was all right, we have mana, we keep and hope that all of these quad, the other 3 blue decks can deal with each other. Essentially, one of them wasn't blue, it was Timnatana, but all the other ones had blue in interaction. I was sure, let's just see what happens. So I keep my just standard mana hand. Timnatana got off to a kind of setup phase. Timna Thrasios got off to the best start, just getting down infect attackers and starting the train and drawing cards with Timna really quickly. And then Malcolm Kedis quickly got out Malcolm Kedis and then a Curiosity on their Malcolm, which was immediately recognized as, hey, that's a problem. And so I did politic for some interaction to get used. We knew that Malcolm Kedis had a Force of Negation revealed. And so I was able to convince the guy to try and swords it and protect the swords to get rid of the Malcolm. Because I was hey, I've played against this deck enough to know that if we let him have this, we will just lose. And that's a big thing, is when someone has a I'm ahead situation, like Malcolm with a Curiosity with a Kedis out, where you're making 3 treasures, drawing 3 cards every turn, and they show you a piece of interaction is don't even bother dealing with it, it won't work. You kind of got to make them use it. because if you don't make them use it, then you'll never be able to beat it. Because then when you need to deal with it later even more, they have more protection for it at that point, and they outpace all of us. So it was correct to kind of make them do some things. I ended up on like turn 3 just luck drawing into a Basalt Monolith. And the way it worked was I was essentially going to get 2 Kinnan activations that turn cycle from Basalt. I was able to like tap something for Grim Monolith to get out Basalt and just be like, hey, you know, I have 1 card in hand. I had only 1 card in hand at that point. I wasn't going to win the game. And you know, Samurai was immediately going to counter it, and we talked about it. And I was like, hey, I know you want to deal with this, but like, this guy's obviously on a Hulk deck. He obviously kept his hand for some reason. I bet he has the win in hand. I feel confident that he's got something going on here. Just like his play patterns said to me, has something and is waiting for the moment to do it. I'm not winning right now. I will be passing the turn and holding up 2 Kinnan activations. And he goes, you're not winning this turn? I said, yes. We shook hands. He said, okay, let me have Basalt. Didn't even activate that turn pass. And I did end up my first Kinnan activation on like Timna Thrasios' turn, got me a Con Sphinx, which obviously tilts the game in a very different direction at that point, where I'm able to start running away with it with Con Sphinx and Basalt from that perspective. And I know that after the game, immediately the Timna Thrasios player was like, why did you not counter the Basalt? And I looked over at the Timna Tana player, who at this point we confirmed was a Hulk player, and I said, if he had countered that, did you have win in hand? And he goes, 100%. I untapped and I won. That's so like it was the correct call, where I was just like, look, I was like, I feel like if we deal with this right now, we lose the game. And Samurai was like, honestly, I have the same read, so I'm going to let you have the Basalt. Which, yes, did I get there in the end? For sure, but from an EV perspective of playing the game, we had the correct read. If we had just dealt with my Basalt, we lost the game. Because the card he had to pitch to Force of Negation to exile my Basalt was Force of Will as well. That was his only other blue card. So he had to pitch Force to Force in order to stop me, and then he has no interaction, and then we untap and just lose to Timna Tana. So people can get mad that I talked my way into my Basalt resolving, whatever, but it was correct. And then I just got lucky on some spins. And Con Sphinx is a good fucking magic card.
Con Sphinx is pretty good. You're not
Con
wrong.
Sphinx is so sick, dude. Con Sphinx is so sick.
So you're what, 3-1 at this point? 3-1? 3-1?
No, that was round 3, so I was 2-1.
2-1
on that one.
Right.
Yeah, 2-1 on that one.
Yeah, so we're both sitting pretty good.
Oh, let me go.
Yeah, go to.
We're both sitting really good. I'm 2-1. You're 2-0-1. Round 4. Oh, this is my pot against Memo. Cool. So we had Nick Sumral. I feel like I've heard the name before. Maybe I played with him once before. He ended up being in the top 16. He was on the play for this round. He was on Malcolm Vile. In second seat was myself on Kinnan. In third seat was Memo on Najila. And in fourth seat was Eureka. So that's the pod we got. And I'm like, okay. Which, for the record, me and Memo have been friends for a long time. I've been talking to him online for a long time. He's literally the guy that got me into coaching. When I decided to start coaching, he was the first person I talked to. I love Memo. I appreciate Memo. Obviously, I've been friends with his brother Pingmeister for a long time, talking about Kinnan. Me and Memo, while we've played games on servers against each other, had never, not once, ever been paired up against each other in a tournament. This was our first ever tournament game against each other. So I was fucking hyped. I was like, let's get it, bro. And I look at my hand, and I'm like, if I just draw a land in the first 2 turns, this is a 2-2 Con Sphinx. I love a turn 2 Con Sphinx. Man, that shit is wild. Because sometimes people just don't keep creature interaction in the opener. That's like not what they go for. You know, they want their shit and they want counter spells. Those counter spells usually don't hit a Con Sphinx. So I'm like, okay. So I fucking send it. And turn 2, I draw a land.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got a Con Sphinx on turn 2. That was kind of the basic gist of that game. Where what ended up happening was I go a full turn cycle with a Con Sphinx where no one could deal with it, just no one had interaction for it. I drew a bunch of cards, which drew me into the win. It drew me into the win, but it did not draw me into protection for the win. And so I untap with like 8 mana, Assault and everything in hand, and I'm like, not yet. Play a Bird's Pass. Hold up my mana. I'm like, I got a Con Sphinx. Why would I? And this is the shit. If you ever done it. Have you ever done a coaching session with me? There's so many times like, we're gold fishing with people, and we have these types of situations where like you're so dominant, you have the win in hand, and they're like, "Do we go for it?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. We hang the fuck out. We just chill," because our EV goes up the longer we wait. We have a Con Sphinx on board. Like, why would I go for an unprotected win attempt when I have a Con Sphinx on board? So yeah, I wait another turn cycle, draws me to like 4 counter spells, and then I win on the next turn. Cool. GG's.
Nice.
I don't know. That game wasn't the game. It was kind of a free win again. I don't know. Kinnan was just giving me what I needed.
Consfix is a good card, dude. What do you want? Yeah.
Yeah, but like round 2.
What's better than a turn 1 Ristic Study? A turn 2 Consfix.
Round 2, freest win of my life. Round 3, natty top deck of Assault to get me out of my maul. Round 4, turn 2 Consphinx. Like, the deck was just giving me what I needed every game.
It's just easy, man. It's an easy deck to play. You just win with it. No problem. Easy. Easy peasy.
You want to talk about easy decks? Let's talk about Florian.
Yeah. What's your record on Florian now when you played Florian?
Completely undefeated in every game I've ever played on it because it's easy as duck.
Yeah, it's a fucking great deck.
Let me just repeat that. Completely undefeated because it's easy as fuck.
Yeah. Good correction. But yeah. So you're in. What's that? That was round 4 for you, right? So you're sitting at 3 and fucking 1. That's like the dream. Living the dream on day 1. Living the dream.
Yeah. I was feeling great.
I was 2-0-1 going into round 4, and I had the worst pod of my entire imagination. So first of all, it's a double Talion pod, right? So there was another Talion, right, sitting across from me. I was in 3rd seat again. I was, by the way, that whole day I was in 3rd seat 4 times and 2nd seat once on day 1. And in 1st seat was fucking Jorman in 1st seat, and sitting in 4th seat was NATO. So stacked pod, absolutely stacked pod. And Jorman kind of floated the idea initially of like, hey, do you guys want to draw? Like, do you want to play it out? And like, I don't know, I'm in 1st seat, so maybe I want to play, but do you guys want to draw? And I'm like, if there's a game that you're going to take a draw in, it's a game and you've got Jorman sitting in 1st seat
on the play.
And I'm like, yeah, I'll take a draw. But NATO's looking at it and he's like, when I was at the Boil, I took a draw early and it cost me because then I just didn't get another win and I ended up not making the cut. So I'm like, I kind of want to play. I'm like, all right, I respect that. I think everyone respected that. So we played, and I don't remember.
NATO said he wanted to play.
NATO wanted to play in 4th seat.
Okay, so I do have to bring up one thing.
Yeah.
Before this round, when NATO
that's
had
right.
2 wins.
Yeah.
He came up to me and he said, "Do I consider taking a draw right now?" And I said, no. You get your 3rd win before you try drawing. And he said, okay, just like no matter what. And I said, well, situationally, like if you're in 4th seat and you see a pod that you don't think you have at least a 25% chance of winning, then consider taking the draw. And we specifically joked about if he ended up in a pod with Jorman on the play and he was in 4th seat, take the draw. We specifically joked about that, and then I'm in the pod next to you guys. I look over and it's Droman on the play, him in 4th seat, and I'm like, "You gonna do it, bro?"
That's so funny. But yeah, so that game was interesting. The Italian player dropped I believe a turn 1 counterbalance, which really kind of set the tone for the game. NATO got a pretty strong start, ended up cloning my Talion. I got Italian pretty early. I think it was turn 1 or turn 2. I don't remember. Jorman didn't do a whole lot initially. And then we got to Jorman's turn where he played a Dockside. This is a really interesting situation because he goes and he casts a Dockside and we let it resolve. And then he goes and casts a Snap targeting the Dockside. And I'm in my hand, I have an offer you can't refuse. Right? And I'm looking at him like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you winning now? What's going on here? What's going on? Because I don't know. Do I let this resolve? What do you guys think? What's going on? And he goes, no, dude. I'm just gonna cast my commanders and pass. I'm like, oh, you're just gonna cast your commanders and pass? Like, yeah, is that what you're, Jorman? So you're telling me that you're gonna cast your command? You're gonna track those 8 treasures. You're gonna cast your commanders and you're gonna pass a turn. He's like, yeah, man, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm like, all right, I'll pass on the Snap. He does a Snap, recast the Dockside, Adnaz. Cast the Adnaz. Straight up Cowboy Bob shit, like right in my face. Like, here we go. Boldface lie. And I'm like, all right, offer you can't refuse, counter the Nas. And he responds right back with I think it was a mental misstep. I believe mental misstep. No, it was a Red Blast. So he goes and Red Blast my offer. And then NATO has the answer, has the mental misstep.
If you haven't played with NATO, he always has it.
Yeah, yeah. But he didn't have an answer for the Nas. He didn't have an answer for the Snap, but he did have the answer for the for the blast.
For the red blast.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, afterwards, after it was
so
over.
I will actually say, though, there's a chance he had an answer for the Nas or the snap. I know the way Nato plays.
He didn't.
He's sandbags.
I know in this case that he didn't have the answer. He didn't have the answer, but I knew, in this case, I knew he didn't. But in any case, what was funny about this, though, is, Jorman and I talked about it afterwards, and he's like, you know what, man? If I hadn't have lied, I would have just won there, right? Because if you had offered my snap, I still would have had enough mana to cast the Nas. But because I lied, and you ended up countering the ad Nas, I lost the game. Or I didn't lose the game, but I couldn't get there.
Yeah.
So the line kind of backfired. Blew up right in the face.
I don't know how much we'll talk about this episode. People were very into lying this tournament.
We should talk about it.
We'll talk about it maybe after we do all the rounds.
We will talk about it. Because there's a bit of a paradigm shift in the format that we all need to be aware of.
To be clear, I will not be doing this. I will continue to be an honest, moral human.
No, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Jorman also bold-faced lied to me in the Mimeoplasm event.
Yeah. There was a lot. I think there was a decision by a shadowy organization within CEDH to
the
Labak to use lying as a tactic, and something everyone should be aware of. And we'll talk about it more later. But in any case, the game went on. Talion didn't do a whole lot. The other Talion didn't do a whole lot. I got to my turn, and I'm like, I'm gonna play this Ristic Study, and I'm gonna feel good, right? Because I'm gonna have a Talion, I'm gonna have a Ristic Study. I'm gonna grind this game. Let's go. And off the top of the Talion stack and the counterbalance trigger was meme bet. And what are the chances a 3-drop's going to be there? Come on.
Pretty
what are
good.
the chances?
Pretty good.
Yeah. So
Ristic, Fierce, Force of Neg, meme bet, Tashana's Tidebinder, Oppo. How many more? How many more 3-drops we play?
Fine. But I was hoping. So Ristic Study gone. I got nothing past the turn. Yeah. That's the turn. And at this point, by the way, Nato has Italian, and he also has I forget the other creature he had. Oh, he had a cast. He was almost ready to cast a Atraxa. Almost ready to cast Atraxa. But he's drawing cards off that Talion. Talion's doing work for him because he gilded Drake the Talion from the other Talion. So he had the other right. So in any case, he goes to swing at the other Talion player. It's going to bounce with mine. And the other Talion player casts that new card that makes a copy at instant speed. What's it called? A C double. He casts C double. Makes a copy of Jorman's Crom and blocks the Talion, which effectively pretty much blows out Native at this point because that's really all he had going for him at that point. Right? And he's like, shit, well, okay, pass. Right? And the thing is in my hand, I had a Spell Pierce. So I could have Spell Pierced the C double and try to negotiate a draw again. Well, because this is right after my Ristic Study's gone. Jorman's looking really strong. I'm in a really kind of messy situation here where I think my chances of getting to a win at this point are just really low. It's just not looking good. But the thing is the way that the Italian player tapped out is he used a Mox Opal that he shouldn't have been able to. Right? So he still had 2 mana up. And so I look at the Spell Pierce, I'm like, this doesn't work. Right? So I let it happen.
You guys have a judge calling the Opal?
Ended up calling the judge. We ended up calling the judge over. And the judge is like, all right, well, here's what we can do. We can roll this whole thing back if you want. And I'm like, guys, why don't we just take the draw now? We just agree to a draw now. This game is really ugly. It could go any way. Do we really want to do this? Or we want to go get something to eat? And I'm like, and I have this, and I showed the Spell Pierce. I'm like, I have the Spell Pierce. I could have Spell Pierced that, and then, NATO still has the Talion, and this all becomes messy. So everyone just agreed, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's just take the draw and move on. So we did. It was fine. I was fine with that, right? No big deal. Mm-hmm. If I knew that I was going to get paired up into the worst possible pot in my imagination into round 5, maybe I would have played it out.
Round 5 snakes perfectly into a pod that we were in together. And the fact that this was not the stream pod is an abomination.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Like they took a low down losing bracket pod because it was 4 content creators. So like I get it. It was Koval, Lua, Elder Drunken Highlander, and Mike Sod. Like I get that you want to stream that.
Pretty sweet
I get
pod
it.
though.
But our pod was you, me, Zane, and Eric.
Yes, Eric from Lemora's
Which, for the record,
cards, by the way.
if you look at the standings going into top 16, the top 3 were me, Zane, and Eric. like this is a wild pod. Zane was on to play. I was in second seed on Kinnan. Yeah, not Zane on wrong side to play. You're in third seed on Talion. Eric's in fourth seed on Corvold. Which if there's a deck I'm afraid of in fourth seed, it's Corvold because dockside equal win. And Zane on the play is also terrifying. So me and you were looking at each other, and I kept a hand that, for the record, was mana, counter magic, Nezahal.
Yeah.
That was my keep. My keep was mana, counter magic, Nezahal. I was like, cool. I'm going to not lose, and I'm going to draw out of this game with a Nezahal to like fight back. That is the plan. Weirdly, Zane and Eric both like mulled the 3.
They did. Yeah.
And they both kept the same fucking hand. They both kept Ancient Tomb Talisman Wheel.
Yep.
But then Zane
you
on
took
the
a picture
play,
of your hand, right? You kept a picture of your hand. I took a picture of my hand.
I did.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I can. We'll put the picture on the screen. My exact hand was Island, Yavimaya, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal, Swan Song, Flusterstorm, Nezahal.
Yeah. So my hand was Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Vamp Tutor, Mindbreak Trap, Gilded Drake, Swan Song.
We were both ready to not lose this game.
Yeah, and my whole game plan, like just to be clear, my whole game plan was okay. Actually, against Rogsai, I like this hand. I like this hand because it's a turn two Talion with a Mindbreak Trap, and I play a land and I hold up the Swan Song and the Mindbreak Trap, and then I get to my end step, the end step on your turn, and then I get to go get the Talion and put it into play. Hopefully, still holding up that Mindbreak Trap if I didn't have to use it. I felt pretty good about it, and the Gilded Drake just so happens to be pretty good against Kinnan. Right, so I felt pretty good about having the Gilded Drake.
Yeah, I didn't like that you did that there, my guy. We were not fans of that play, you piece of shit. But so yeah,
you had
Zane literally.
You had Nezahal in your hand?
I had Nezahal. Yeah, I had a Nezahal. I wonder whose board that ended up on when I conveniently only had 2 cards in hand. And in my brain, I'm totally fine to go to 2 cards with Nezahal because I know that if you try and remove it, you have to cast a spell that draws me a card on Nezahal and then I can protect it.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting exactly fucking Gilded Drake. That was annoying as fuck, and I was very upset about it. And so Zane on the play, his hand was Ancient Tomb Talisman Time Twister. Turn 1 top deck, just conveniently Mana Crypt.
Yeah.
So that sucks. And thank God you had a Mindbreak Trap. That was really cool. I appreciated
Worked
that.
out really
I was
well.
a little worried. I was about to be so sad if I had to pitch my hand back. I was like, this is great. This is holding up Swan Song and Fluster every turn of this game. Like, it will never tap down out of these. I go to my turn. I think I went like land, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal. Did not play Kinnan because I'm not tapping out of Swan Song and Fluster. There's no way. Your turn, I think you literally went like land pass, maybe land Mana Crypt or something. I think it was just land pass. Yeah, because you only had 2 lands when you took the Nezahal.
Yep,
it was land pass. Eric just did like the exact Ancient Tomb Talisman type thing. Zane, obviously kind of blown out at that point, draws a card, passes. I think he drew another mana rock. Like, Zane just drew mana for all of the draws until another wheel occurred. He just drew mana.
Yep.
And so I end up slamming Kinnan. And then I think I just slammed Nezahal. Like, I think I had the mana for both, weirdly. I think I ended up where I did have it. Because I drew like a Mox Amber or something. And so, yeah, turn 2, I played Kinnan Nezahal.
I responded to the Nezahal with the Vamp Tutor.
Yes, you responded with a Vamp Tutor, which I guess in my brain I thought got the Gilded Drake. What did it get? Mana Crypt?
I told you I was going to get a Mana Crypt, and you're like, are you going to hit my board? And I'm like,
that was where I fucked. That was where I fucked up. Because I misstepped, or I swan songed your Vamp Tutor because I didn't want you to find the answer to Nezahal.
Yeah.
Were you actually going to get a Mana Crypt?
I was actually going to get a Mana Crypt, yep.
So I would have been able to blink you because you wouldn't have even gone for it, would you have? You wouldn't waste your Gilded Drake there.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Aw, that's upsetting. Yeah, because I didn't realize you had the Gilded Drake or an answer.
Yep.
So I just assumed you were getting it. So I was like, okay, I do not want to lose this Nezahal. I'm not going to let you have this Vamp Tutor. then you just untap and played a Gilded Drake. When you literally said, how many cards you got in hand? I said 2, knowing that I'd get 3 if you did something. And then you're like, cool, Gilded Drake. And I was like, that sucks. That really, really sucks. And from there, that was when Eric just untapped and played a wheel.
Yeah, which was rough, which is really rough. Considering that Zane had such a developed board, and the only thing holding him back was cards. And that,
he had so much mana. He had like 8 mana on board because he topped decked like Soul Ring as well. Like he just had like Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, Talisman, 2 lands. Like dude just had he drew really well. So yeah, I mean the wheel went through. I was encountering it, and my wheel was 4 lands, Felwar Stone, Void Winnower. I don't remember what the last card was. Not a good hand. Not one I'm excited about. Zane immediately said this was trash. I don't know how much I believe Zane on these things anymore, but he said this was trash. Your wheel, what was it?
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it included a fish. It included a fish, and it included 1 counter spell, which was a Force of Neg, right? And I had a Ristic Study, which was like kind of awkward because I didn't have any mana rocks to go with it. So I had the Ristic Study that I couldn't really cast. I had a Force of Neg, I had the fish, which was fine, and then lands, like mostly lands, which was very scary to me at that point because I'm looking at Zane and I'm like, we had just had him under control, and now he is no longer under control. So for my head, I'm like, well, thank God I have this Nezahal, because this Nezahal is like my only hope. Like I got to draw cards with this Nezahal to keep Zane from just winning the game.
So while you're so worried about Zane, what were the words that came out of your mouth, Max? What were the words that tilted me?
So, but and just to be clear, so I'm looking at the board, and here's what I see, right? I see Korvald over there, turbo deck. I see Zane over there, turbo deck. I see you with mana developed in Kinnan. And in my head, I'm thinking, all right, I can rely on this fish, and I can rely on this Nezahal to control Zane and control Eric. But I don't have shit to do against Kinnan, and if you drew the nuts off of that wheel, I just lose right now. And I say this, I say it out loud, right? I say it to myself out loud, at which point I think it tilted you because you felt like I'm directing the table at you at that point.
Well, because you didn't say it out loud, to be very clear, which just like obviously I did overreact in my personal way of handling the words you said, and we've talked about this. We've already talked this over.
And we're good now. Yeah.
We're good, but one thing that will always tilt me is when people use, and I'm not saying this is what you did or what you were intended to do, but the concept that bothers me that I hate when I see people doing it is like fear-mongering politics. Just like pushing fear onto people without the use of real logic. And I've complained about certain players in the past where every single time anyone does anything, they go, this is a win temp, this is a win temp, this is a win temp, when they're not. They're just casting normal fucking spells, and like that shit is so annoying because it's like just shut up. Or when people deterministically say something's going to happen that they have no backing for, and however you meant what you said to come across, what you did was point at me and say, you drew into the win, I can feel it, I know it. And when I'm looking at a hand that's 4 lands, a Felwar Stone, and a Void Winnower, and I don't know what my 7th card was, but it was irrelevant. I think it might have been a counter spell. I got very frustrated, and I specifically said to you right away, I said, don't say stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, and you immediately then just repeated it, and that tilted the fuck out of me, because I don't like those politics, and I know that you weren't. I know we've talked about this, that you were not using it as a way to express politics and create fear for me for the table. That's not what your intention was, but that's the way it comes across.
Sure.
And it was very frustrating. So I went red. I went like my normal gameplay for people who've played tournament games against me. I'm joking around. I'm trying to guess what chicken about people. Like we're trying to shoot the shit. I try and create a very fun, laughing game environment. And when you did that, I just said, fuck it, shark mode, and I went like full stone face. Just the entire game, intense stone face, no politics, no talking. I'm playing Magic for the rest of this game.
Yeah. Which I think that interaction between the two of us cost both of us in the end. By us inadvertently basically rubbing each other the wrong way. I think we stopped communicating with each other, and we needed to stop
as the control players.
Yeah. We needed to collaborate more than we did. And I think that's.
I did communicate with you, but in a not appropriate fashion of a demanding variety.
Yeah, that happened too. Yeah. But in any case, the game progressed from there, right?
Where you just, I mean, you have a Nezahal and a fish. I untap, I play a Felwar Stone. I think I like hold up a Kinnan activation that gets me. I literally whiffed on it.
Yeah, right. And then my plan is like I'm at that point. I'm looking at Zane, I'm looking at Kovold, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to close this. Like I've got to get to Hullbreaker Horror. I've got Kinnan as an outlet. Like I need to get this set up, and I need to get this done like ASAP. Because if I sit on this too long, the window's going to close, and they're going to go for it, and I'm going to lose. So I go and I tutor at that point, demonic tutor for imposter mech, because at that point I want that Kinnan, right?
This was 2 turns after the wheel, just to be clear, because you had a turn cycle where then you played a fish, and now we're another turn past.
Correct.
This,
Correct.
Clear, yeah.
Yes, and I wanted that Kinnan. All right, I wanted that Kinnan. I wanted to start activating Kinnan. There's actually a decent amount of hits off of believe it or not. I can hit Tidebinder. I can hit Tidebinder's not good. Never mind. You can hit Shieldred, right? I can hit clones. I can hit
sure.
But in any case,
you can hit
whatever.
You can hit Metamorph. You can hit Shieldred. You can hit Hullbreaker. You can hit Bowmaster. You can't hit Oppo.
No.
Can't hit Sakashima.
But I'm any way I can find to dig and start trying to figure out how to get Hullbreaker on the battlefield. I wanted. So I went for the Kinnan. And
which, when you cast Imposter Mech,
go for it.
I said very clearly, as I'm in just red mode, and I did say this way too harshly. I said you target my shit, I interact.
Yeah, but not like
word
that.
for word.
But not like that. You didn't say it.
I mean, I said it. I mean, I didn't yell it, to be clear. I was not loud. I just said it very clearly and harshly.
Yes.
I said you target my stuff, I interact.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if you touch my things, I'm out of this game. Because all I have is Kinnan and mana.
Right. So I go, okay, I'm targeting Kinnan. At which point you cast a March of Swirling Mists, and you targeting
Kinnan,
Nezahal and the Kinnan. And then at that point I start to panic. Right. I started to panic because I'm like, I can't lose this Nezahal. If I lose this Nezahal, my draw engine is gone. I had at that point just drawn 5 straight lands. I do want to explain why I targeted the Nezahal as well, because I think that's important. Sure, go for it.
Where we were at in this game with the mana people had presented, you having a fish, which again I know Talion very well, so I know how that deck works when it has 2 card advantage engines. Specifically, fish and Nezahal is kind of wild because they're not they're going to trigger on everything. It's not Talion that's only some things. You're going to draw a shitload of cards, and I know that where I currently have. Pretty much all I have is March and Mindbreak Trap in hand. That's all I have. And I'm not in a realistic place to win an interaction battle to ever push through a win attempt. And I know that with the time left in round, we're not drawing. Either you're winning or Turbo's pushing through in some way or another. So there's no world in my brain that this game is going to a draw. And if I do not do something, there's no way I'm winning the game. So I decided that my highest EV line was to open up the window where, again, I don't know that you just drew 5 straight lands because that's a rare thing in Talion. So my brain is you have more interaction. So my thought is I'm going to hit the Nezahal here, and I'm going to open up the window for Eric and Zane and try and push them into going for something.
And force me to stop
in the hopes yes, and I'm going to just interact with nothing and refuse, even if I had the answers, not fucking bother with it.
Yeah.
And just let you deal with everything. Sub of an actual 100% win on the stack that only my Mindbreak Trap hits. Everything else, you deal with it. I don't touch it. And I need to hope that opens a window for me and I draw well. Right. That is my out in my brain. So that is why I targeted the Nezahal, because 2 draw engines, I don't think they're as inclined to go for it. I don't think Zane goes for it when he did if there's 2 draw engines. I think Eric might still with the dockside just send it. But that was why I hit the Nezahal. I wasn't trying to just be a dick about it. But also in my brain I was like, if you fuck up and blink the Nezahal, it comes back to my board. So I was happy with either of those.
There's no way I was doing that. That's for damn sure. But you
have not played a lot of Nezahal. I don't know if you know how that works.
Oh, I know.
I don't know if you know how that works.
I get it. It makes sense. And the other thing is maybe I was a little bit too aggressive too, in the sense that I could have imposter mech'd it, and instead of targeting the Gilded Drake to try to take the Kinnan that way, I could have just copied the Kinnan. But I also I felt afraid of you being one top deck away from winning the game as well. So taking the Kinnan away from you made me feel more in control. But it felt like the right thing to do at the time. So I mean, in any case, it happened. And I had a choice at that point. I had the spell in my hand, and I had that Force of Neg that I'd have to pitch the heuristic study for. And I'm like, I feel that having the Remora and having the Nezahal on board was going to be good enough for me to draw cards to be able to stop the turbo players. But if I lose Nezahal, I feel like I'm in real trouble because I had just drawn a bunch of lands, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I got to try to protect it. I casted Dispel on the march.
Which, when you cast the Dispel, signals to me that you have so much interaction in hand.
Right.
That's the way that comes across.
And
because I don't know that you've drawn lands. And in my brain, I'm like, wow, why would you defend this?
Yeah,
like,
and normal...
in my brain, if that's your only counter, there's no world you defend that.
Right, and I think in a normal game where you and I are like doing well and like jovial and having fun, I think we talk more. I think we say, hey, before you do that, let's talk for a second, and we have more of a conversation. But in this case, we were not doing that, so it didn't happen. And we ended up fighting too much over it. I stopped after that because I couldn't cast the Force. Right. I don't know that I would have or not anyway, but maybe I would have thought about it. I don't know. But we passed the turn. I passed the turn over to Korvold without my Nezahal. Kinnan's phased out, Nezahal's phased out pass. And I'm like, God, please let this fish draw something besides lands. It did not, by the way. Did not draw anything else. Passed the turn to Korvold, and he went for it.
Exactly what I wanted to happen happened. Eric went for it. You stopped him. Or you and Zane stopped him. Whatever way it mattered, he got stopped. Which I will say, the way Zane played a perfect act here that I missed, where he was really just acting upset about all of his draws. And even when I said I'm opening the window for you guys, when I targeted the Nezahal, Zane was like, I wish I could do something with it. You know what I mean? Like, that was his immediate response. So like, I didn't have Zane on my radar as having a win, which he didn't have like a great win. He had a very got him type win. But exactly as I was hoping, Eric saw no Nezahal, said, I'm going to send this, got stopped. Passed to Zane, who, by the way, used a pact to stop his Dockside, so has to pay for a pact. He had
so much mana, he didn't even care.
He had so much mana. And then he just hits us with Reverse Thoracle.
And we lose. Yep.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Which in my brain, like, I was totally okay with that. Because like I said, it was either, I'm... Yeah, I know you're not annoyed because you were next up to win. But in my brain, my EV on losing to you or losing to Zane, I don't give a fuck which one happens. Like, it's the same thing to me. I'm not going to favor you in a tournament just because I like you.
Oh, 100%.
I also like Zane.
Yeah, 100%.
Zane is my sponsor. He gives me money. Zane bought me a chicken meatball parm, whatever it was, sandwich at Fishbowl, and you did not.
I did not get one.
Yeah.
I wasn't even at Fishbowl.
Yeah. You just ditched me on Monday.
Hey now, calm down. But in any case,
we
tough
lost.
Tough way to end day one. Honestly, losing that game was harsh because for me at that point at 2 wins, 1 loss now, and 2 draws, I just needed 1 win out of the next 3. There's one win out of those 3 games, and I was going to pretty much be locked for top 16. So, and it felt like the longest distance between 2 points was me and 1 more fucking win. It just felt so far away. So
I just needed to double draw in. That was my plan. Was just double draw in. I'll be at 17. I'll be 3rd seat, whatever. Top 16. That was my plan. But we finished day 1, which it was a rough way to end. I was very tilted after our game. We had a little bit of we had some conversations there, and we got to an understanding with one another. We talked it out like as friends do. Don't just you can be mad. You can be mad at your friends. Just be willing to talk to them later.
That's the most important thing
about it.
Yeah,
that's called being adult. It's called being adult. Yeah. And then after this, I quickly eat a little bit of food, and then we move on to one of the greatest tournaments that has ever existed, Mimeo Madness. Which, for anyone who does not know about this event, this was a joking event that I think stemmed from that like all mono blue Merfolk Commander event that happened. It was like a 12-person event, a month ago or whatever, maybe 16. And so Mikey and Lauren decided to add one in for Punt City. And after day 1 event called Mimeo Madness, where it was 16 people and all of them had to play Mimeoplasm. They didn't know who was going to sign up for this. But when you look at the 16 people who signed up, the bracket included myself, Waffle, Ian, Jorman, Malcolm Beckford, Ori, Scorish, Scoop, Rebel. It was loaded, like absolutely fucking loaded. Yeah, and we were just like, fuck it, we're sending Mimeo Madness. I think it ended up where some people were out to dinner when we started, so we ended up only getting 3 pods instead of 4. So we had 12 people there. And my Swiss round semifinals, top 16, top 12, whatever you want to call it, first pod, because it was single elimination. It was just one round, winner of each pod goes to finals. And this was for money. There was legitimate prizing on this event. Where
How
me
much
and
money
Waffle,
was it? I didn't know there was money on the line. What?
$500.
What?
Yeah, it was legit money.
Jesus.
So me and Waffle brewed for this event. We cooked. And going up to this event for like a couple weeks before, we kept going in mental circles where plan initially was like, you know, all the graveyard hate, fuck over the other Mimeo decks, whatever. And then we realized that everyone's a good player and everyone is going to be on that plan to fuck over the Mimeo decks. So we were like, take away all graveyard related things. And then we took away our graveyard hate because we were like, everyone else is going to be on the graveyard hate, so we don't need to play our graveyard hate. And then we realized everyone else was off the graveyard hate. So then we were like, maybe we should go back on the graveyard hate. We were like leading up to this event, just having like conversations with other people who were, I'm sorry, also Larry Park, Sergio also in this event. Like, they're just like ridiculous. And so all these conversations with people were like creating a meta before the meta exists and going in mental circles of like, what is the correct amount of hate and cycle to go in? What's going to be the sweet spot? And it was annoying because we were trying to like update deck lists while making these last minute changes and stuff like that. And finally, Mikey was like, you guys do not have to submit a deck list. It's fine. So I was like, sick. I can just make changes. And so I took out random graveyard hate pieces and was just like, cool, I'm adding in Force of Vigor, I'm adding in Hullbreaker Horror as an extra little win con last second, like just tossing some things in. We were on like Sultai Turbo, we were on Necro, we were on Nas. I was just, our plan was everyone's about to try and do some dumb shit, we're gonna try and just win the fucking game, which is great. And so my Swiss round top whatever pod was Ian on the play, Scorish going second, Jorman going third, and me folding up the rear going fourth. I was like, oh, I got the hell pod. Like, that's fucking bullshit. But at least I wasn't against Waffle. The only one I didn't want to be against was Waffle because me and Waffle knew each other's deck. And the hand I get from my 4th seat position is 2 lands, Birds of Paradise, Culling the Weak, Wishclaw Talisman, Demonic Consultation. Which, if you map that out, is Xaxes mana to turn 2 Thoracle.
We're talking about the Mimeoplasm event, right? We're talking about
yes, we're talking about
the slime guy.
Yeah,
right?
who the fuck? Yeah. I saw one Mimeoplasm get cast.
Turn 2 Thoracle console. Is that what you're saying? Turn 2
was my plan. I was trying to land birds, pass, land, tap birds for black, Culling the Weak birds, Wishclaw for 3 of the black, or Wishclaw for 2 of the black, 3rd black to activate the Wishclaw, 1 black floating, use 2 lands for Thoracle, black floating remaining Demonic Consultation. I tried to just win on turn 2.
Jesus Christ.
And Jorman had the fluster. And keep in mind, when I activate my Wishclaw, Jorman already has a Wishclaw, and he tells me I'll get a green source and give it back. So I say, bet. Jorman at one point in this game had 3 Wishclaw Talismans. But then I ended up where I got the Wishclaw back, and I just was like, and I looked at Ian, and I was like, there's 2 counters left in this thing. I'll get a fish, give it to you if you get a fish. You good with that? And he goes, bet. So me and Ian each get a fish, start drawing some cards, fighting back into it. I end up Praetor's Grasping Ian, and I take his Thoracle. And then
in the Mimeoplasm, you're still talking about the Mimeoplasm.
Yeah, we're talking. No one fucking cast the Mimeoplasm. No one gave a shit about Mimeoplasm in this goddamn event. We all just played Sultai. But we were all on different plans. Like, different people were on different plans. Jorman's deck, hilarious. Jorman showed up, said, I didn't build the deck, I forgot. Took out Kinnan, put Kinnan in the 99, put Mimeo in the command zone, and added Peatbog, Demonic Tutor, and Necropotence. And just played Kinnan. Played Kinnan.
That's hilarious.
Which we were talking, we were like, you could have put in so many better cards than Peatbog, to be fucking clear.
Tutor? Yeah.
Any fetchable black land?
Oh my god.
Bayou and fucking Underground Sea would have been nice. But he just played Kinnan. And then, but I get to point, so I Praetor's Grasp Ian's Thoracle. I have that face down in exile. I Noxious Survival back my fucking Demonic Consultation. So I have my Demonic Consultation. And at this point, I'm in hold up mode because I have an Emergent Zone on board. And I have the mana, to tap my Ancient Tomb to crack E-Zone and just go for an instant speed Thoracle line whenever the fuck I want. But like Ian has a Fairy Mastermind that he's never tapping down a 4 mana for, so he can always activate this fairy to make me draw a card. And I just have to sit there for turns, just like land dork, land talisman, whatever fucking pass. And I'm just biding my fucking time. Scorish doomsdayed. No one saw the doom.
Of course he did.
And he doomsdayed and didn't have a way to crack the pile and passed. To be
oh,
and then
it,
also stacked his pile wrong.
Oh my god. Dude,
and then
so
finally, we get to a point that like I look like I'm cooked. Scorish is obviously cooked, and then fucking Jorman gets down a coma. Where the way he lied, what he lied was he activated the Wish Claw that he told me he was going to get a green source, promised to get a green source and pass so he could cast Kinnan, and got Ancient Tomb so then he could cast the One Ring, which like isn't the most egregious lie, but it is still a lie. And I told him I don't appreciate that shit. That happened, and so. Now everyone just giving all the Wish Claws to Scorish because they know he's going to die in a couple turns because he doesn't have cards in his library. So like we'll just get him back. Sounds great. Yeah, what are you going to tutor for in your 5-card library? He got endurance, so cards went back in his graveyard to keep him around. But so we end up in a position that is just Ian versus fucking Jorman. And, Jorman's just going off with a coma. He's just building up his army, building up his mana, building up his chance. And then Ian finally goes for it. Finally, after like 8 turns, the dude just tries to send it. He has a Sheoldred on the battlefield, and he goes to send, which gets Jorman super low. Jorman's at like 4 life. And so Ian's like, this is my chance. And he tutors up the Windfall. And he casts the Windfall, and Jorman is forced to use his Mind Break trap on it. Ian's tapped down, Jorman is tapped down, used all his counter magic, and Ian goes past turn. I go, man, in your end step, my guy. I'd like to activate this emergent zone. Which, on the turn before this, Jorman had said out loud, wounded, you were never winning this game.
Oh my god.
So I look at him and I go, oh, is that what you said, my guy? Is that what you believe to be the case? I would like to crack this emergent zone. And they all knew it was fucking Thassa's Oracle in Exile. What else would it be? I fucking play Oracle. I play Demonic Consultation. I said, Jorman, do you have anything? Do you have a way to stop this? And he goes, I would like to sack a Coma's Coil and tap down your elf. And I go, that's fine. He says, I would like to sack a Coma's Coil and give Coma indestructible. I go, that's fine. He says, I would like to sack a Coil and give Coma indestructible again. I said, that's fine. Do you have anything for Demonic Consultation? He says, no. and I win my first round of the Mimeo event.
Oh my god.
It was fun as fuck. Dude, it was so much fun. Everyone was playing loose. Everyone was having a fun time. Like, this event was really a really
I wish
good
I'd
time.
played in it now. I wish I'd played in it, but I did not want to I wasn't sure how I'd feel at the end of the day one, and I wanted to leave that space open for me to, do recover or whatever I needed. So yeah, it sounded like it was.
But so
fun.
then
I regret that.
Then we go to the finals pod. Only 3 of us.
Yeah.
It's myself on Turbo Sultai. It's Ori on Enchantress Stacks. He's on Perplexing Chimera and shit. Where a lot of his deck was built around Helm of Obedience, by the way. He'd been hyping up Helm of Obedience for 2 weeks. Like, oh, everyone's going to be on Leyline of the Void. I'm just going to Helm of Obedience, you guys. And then Scoop was on Hermit Druid stuff. Which, honestly, the balls to go for a graveyard strategy in this meta was wild to me. The funniest thing, I think the one card that every single deck was on that's not normal was Compost. I think every single person was on Compost. It was so free. And so, do you know what Compost does?
Yeah. Whenever
a black card. Yeah, you draw a card.
Yeah. It's a really bad
so yeah,
green to draw a card. Yeah.
So we go to that pod, and I don't think I was on a play. I think Ori was on a play. I went second. Scoop went third. Scoop was the Crux Soccer player that I lost to in round 1 with the tattoo. And I mulled to 4 or 5 maybe. I just kept mana again. I had a hand that did nothing. I just kept mana, and I just hung out for a while. And Ori dominated this game so quickly. Ori absolutely dominated this game. I quickly got down to Bowmasters. That kind of was fucking them a little bit because they were trying to draw some cards. And I was getting Scoop to a position where I kept swinging at him to try and kill him because he had the interaction for my Nas. And I told him that I would only stop swinging at him if he let my Nas resolve that I drew into. And he was like, I'm not letting your Nas resolve. Until we got to a position that Ori got really close to winning the game. And he was like, now you can cast your Nas. and I cast my Nas, and it was terrible. And I told him, I was like, I'm not going too deep with this Nas. Like, I'm not taking this all the way. I went down to like 15 or something. You know, lost like 18 life. I think I was at 35. Went from like 35 to like 17, 15, something in that range. Just got a bunch of cards in hand, but nothing that was that good. I hit a bunch of big drops, like, you know, Mindbreak Trap and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I hit some interaction, but we end up killing Scoop a few turns later. He just dies to, you know, natural occurrences. Ori has a board that's Shieldred, Talion, all this enchantment bullshit, and I'm like absolutely fucking cooked. He has a Rhystic Study too. Like, he's drawing so many cards, but I fucking knew just from how he's playing. I was like, you don't actually have that much interaction in your deck. You just have fucking enchantments and shit. And so, like, his turn 1 was Chrome Mox pitched City of Solitude. Like, fucking. and so I fucking Hail Mary, which at this point in the game, my Thoracle got, I think my Thoracle got Praetor's Grasp by Scoop. I think so. Maybe he took either my Thoracle or my Demonic, but either way, my Thoracle's gone. My Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact are both gone. My Orcish Bowmaster that I'm able to blink with Hullbreaker was one of my other thoughts, is gone. I do not have a Shieldred. In my brain, I'm like, I literally don't think I have a way left in my deck to win the game. I am at 4 life. He has a Talion, he has a Shieldred, all that kind of shit. I do have a One Ring in hand. And so I say, all right, like, I'm pretty sure I'm cooked. Let me see what I got. I cast a Cabal Ritual that has Threshold. I get 5 black. And then I cast Demonic Tutor, and I'm like, yeah, you can draw on anything. I don't care, bro. Like, you draw. And I'm looking through my deck, and I'm trying to find my way. Do I got a line? Do I have anything I can do here? And I see it. I'm like, oh yeah, I randomly added a Hullbreaker Horde to this bitch. I wonder what that does. I have the One Ring in hand. Like, I don't have the line right now, but that's a later problem. I take Hullbreaker Horde. I cast Hullbreaker Horde. I proceed to have to use every single card in my hand, which included like casting a Worldly Tutor and mental misstepping my own Worldly Tutor, like get the right Hullbreaker triggers to bounce Shieldred and Talion and these other things in the correct order that I didn't lose life off of them, to clean out Ori's board to the point where then I'm able to go infinite with the Hullbreaker. We finally fucking get there. But remember, his Bowmaster's not on board, so it's not like I can clone it. And my only clone is Fimage. I didn't have Metamorph. So it's not like I could Hullbreaker bounce my Fimage, because I didn't have Hullbreaker in the list when we were building this list. That was a last minute change. I would have done that differently. So in my brain, I'm like, I don't think I have a way to kill this guy. But so I start just drawing cards with the One Ring one by one. And I do remember while tutoring that, oh, he was like, show me Finale Devastation. And I was like, oh, bet. Pick up my deck. And I'm like, I'll show you Finale. There's no Finale. Which, like, actually, I need to go look at Boxfield. I 100% believe that I had Finale in this deck. Why the fuck is there no Finale in this deck? 1 second. I'm sorry. You can cut out this dead space. My deck was named Mr. Mime is Ass Ketchum's father, by the way. Yeah, so there was no Finale Devastation in this deck. And I was like, okay, so we have to recook, because he told me he'd scooped a Finale, but I thought I had Finale. I didn't play Finale. And so then I draw into Praetor's Grasp, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't know what I'm doing. Praetor's Grasp, you, I'm a look. And I start scrolling through Ori's deck, and I scroll past Helm of Obedience, and I'm like, man, I don't play a lot, but I do play a Dothy. And so I show him my Dothy, I show him his Helm of Obedience, and I say, you good to scoop to that? And he says, yep. And we fucking got there. I am the Slime King. And I won the Mimeoplasm event. Yeah.
I still can't believe that's like a side like goof event, and like that's wild, dude. That's completely wild. Well, congratulations, so Slime King, dude.
Thank you. Yeah. I won some money, and I won the Mimeoplasm Secret Lair.
Yeah. Nice.
And from there, I went and played a Berio Kart competition that Accepted set up.
Yeah. We don't need to go that too much.
I'm not going to go.
What it is.
I'm not going to go. I'm just gonna, it's where you have to drink. You have to finish a full beer before you finish the race.
Oh, that's easy.
So I just chug it at the start and then go.
Yeah,
which for those who do not know, I do not play video games commonly at my current position in life. But when I was younger, there was one night that I pulled an all-nighter until I beat the world record time trial in Mario Kart 8 on DK Mountain. So I'm good at that game. So I had a lot of fun with that. I got absolutely trashed. I got very drunk. And before the Bureau Card event, before the Mimeoplasm event, I went into the Mimeoplasm event starting to get drunk on snake liquor. Because our buddy Diablo brought in this bottle of, I don't know what it was, with a real snake in it. And said, you should try this. And it was smooth as fuck. And I drank a lot of it. And so I went from that into the Mimeoplasm, where I kept sipping on that, into the Burial Cart, into after Burial Cart. I met up with our buddy Willie, who made me keep drinking. I was fucked up. I started playing Kinnan at 2:30 in the morning, not knowing what I was doing, and still cooked them. And then me and Willie finally got home at about 3 a.m., and I woke up Naystrom in our bedroom where we had bunk beds talking to him, and he said, you are a very confusing drunk because you're obviously fucked up, but for some reason you do not slur at all. You still speak like you're sober, and it's really confusing. He's like, you speak with full articulation and fast. I do not understand it.
That's funny. It's hilarious.
Which I've been told before, so I'm glad to know that's still a thing. Yeah, so that was a great night. So I got like 3 hours of sleep, and then woke up for day 2, still kind of drunk. Yeah,
wild.
And we go into round 6, where I guess I'll start us off this time.
Yeah, do it. Day 2.
Day 2. Thank God I got a pod that could ID. So I was not ready to play Magic. I ID round 6 with people. It was a little conversation about it. It only got me to 16, so it didn't even necessarily 100% lock me yet. I figured it probably did, but wasn't sure. I think it realistically did.
Yeah.
I would have been the top 16 for sure. And so, we agreed to the ID there, and I'm like, great. I take some time off. I'm like almost vomiting in my mouth the entire morning and trying to just like get myself together a little bit.
Yeah, I saw you. You look pretty rough, dude. You look pretty rough.
I was not in the best shape, dude. How was your round 6?
Yeah. So I've done a bunch of these now. The 7-round top deck, tournaments. And one of the problems I've run into, and maybe it's because I'm in my 40s, right? And I don't think it's a problem for you young babies, playing these tournaments. But for me, the second day is really tough, right? Because I feel more run down. I used a lot of brain energy the day before, and it's hard to sleep that night, and it's just very difficult. So in the past, I've gone to these day 2s where I'm like, I don't even want to play anymore. Like, I just want to like survive, somehow make the top cut, and play a good game in the semis, right? I did not feel like this there. Like, I felt good. I felt ready to play. I wanted to play. I wanted to get that win. I felt really motivated. I knew it was going to be hard. Like, it felt like a really long way, and I was very down on myself about being able to pull it off. But all the energy and determination was there. And I went into the pod, my round 6 pod, and it was Turtle on Sisay, another player whose name I don't remember, who's also on Sisay, so double Sisay pod, and Bailey on his blue farm list. So not an easy pod at all, but I was, thank God, in first seat for the first time. Not a crazy good hand, nothing that good, but what it was I had a copy artifact, and I had a Mox Opal, and I had a Mana Vault, and I had some land. So in my mind, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a turn 2 Talion, and I'm going to be holding up interaction. And I feel pretty confident going against Sisay and going against Blue Farm that's probably good enough, especially because I also had a Weathered Runestone. And Weathered Runestone in a double Sisay pod is just
really
beautiful.
Good.
Really good.
Really, really good.
Really good. So start my turn, do the thing, go to my second turn. I'm like, here we go. I'm gonna copy artifact, copy my Mox Opal, and play Talion. Oh wait, as it turns out, Mox Opal is fucking legendary, and I'm an idiot. So punted right away. Doofus, like just really, really dumb. So really, and it had tapped my Mana Vault to do this too. So it was like just really, really, really stupid mistake. But I did fortunately draw for turn a Wishclaw Talisman, and negotiated with the other Sisay player. I'm like, all right, I'm going to play this Wishclaw Talisman. I'm going to crack it right now so I can still get to Talion. But if I give it to you, what can we work out here? And I'm like, I want you to get something that helps us not die. I'm like, do you have a Mind Break Trap? And he's like, yeah, I can get. At first, he's like, I can get a Force of Will. I'm like, no, I don't want you to Force of Will because you can use that to defend your win. Like, I'd rather you get something more defensive, like a Mind Break Trap. So yeah, he agreed. He'll go get a mind break trap. And I said, yeah, and you give it back to me, I'll also get a mind break trap. So I worked that out, got my Talion, recovered from my mistake. We moved on with the turn. Game turned into total hellscape after that. Everyone got draw engines online. Everyone was drawing dozens of cards. It was absolutely cracked and stupid. And it was, we were already talking, like we're not going to be able to, no one's going to be able to win here. We're just never going to get there. Getting around to time, Turtle actually made a run for it and got stopped. Came to my turn. At that point, I'd drawn everything I needed to win with what was in people's graveyards, and I had my Meme Betrayal. And I had a bunch of counter magic. So I felt like I was going to be able to push this through. I felt like there was a good chance I could still win. Go to my upkeep, and Bailey cast Angel's Grace. So, and he's like, okay, draw now. I sat there, and I'm thinking about it for a second. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? No. Let me see what I can do. Because as it turns out, playing Angel's Grace does turn off my ability to win the game on my turn, right? It also turns off the ability for damage to put his life below 1, and it turns off his ability for him to lose until the end of turn, right? And that's where there's still a small opening for there to still be a win, right?
What, a cleanup?
At cleanup, exactly. But what it involves at that point is I have to find a way to reduce his life total below 0 and then get to cleanup successfully. Which was not an easy thing to do. I needed to go meme bet. I needed to tutor. I needed to start a Hullbreaker Horror loop. I needed to get to Shieldred. I needed to Time Twister. There's all these things that we're going to need to happen to get there. And I go through it. I go through the process. I put meme bet on the stack. I'm about to get there, and I work through the counter magic, and we're at the point where nobody has any more interaction, and I'm going to get there, and the storm count is like, what is it? I don't remember what it was, but whatever times 3 equals 42, because Bailey cast a Brain Freeze. All targets targeting me, obliterated my entire library, and everything I needed to try to pull off that convoluted, line to get to clean up successfully, all gone. At that point, accepted the draw, which was tough. It was tough because at that point, a draw does nothing for me. Does not help me at all. I mean, sure, it might, if I lose the next round, I get a little bit more top deck points for being in the top 32 probably. I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. I want fucking top cut. I want to get to that top 16. So it was really, really hard losing that round, especially because I played my ass off. Other than that punt in the beginning, I played really, really good. And it was a really fun pod, good players all around. But couldn't get there, couldn't win. So moving on from there, we went into our round 7, which was epic, I think, for both of us. I'll go first. I think yours is even more crazy than mine. Mine was awesome, but it's a pretty quick explanation. So my round 7, was another hell pod, against 2 players who I have a ridiculous amount of respect for. I was in first seat, thank God. And second seat was Dan Brooks. I played against him in Punt City 2 top 16 as well. So dude can play, and he's like the last standing Timna Thrasios player, and he's an excellent player. So not who you want to see when you're in your win and in pod. He's just such a good player. And then Sharky in third seat on Tevish Crom.
Yeah.
So yeah. So a little intimidating, and then a Tivit player in seat 4. I got a great hand right off the bat. I had a turn 1 fish, which was juicy and wonderful, into a turn 2 Talion. And Dan tried to discuss at the table about doing a fish pack, are we going to feed this fish or not? And Sharky's like, I'm going to feed it 1 card. I'm just going to feed it 1 card. So don't feed it a lot. I'm just going to feed it 1 card. Dan looks at him like, yeah, I don't, nah. So Dan does what he needs to do, feeds a couple cards to the fish. Sharky untaps, plays his own fish on turn 1. And Dan's like, yeah, you almost got me. Moves on to Tivit's turn. Tivit does what Tivit does, dropped a few rocks, got set up, passed the turn to me.
So you just got 6 cards off this.
Oh, yeah. I've drawn I'm like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Gee, thanks. Thanks again. I drop my Talion pass, right? Goes around to Tivit's turn. Tivit, I have at that point I have 1 mana untapped, and that's it. In my hand, I have like for interaction that I can use that 1 mana for. All I have is a Spell Pierce. I had other interaction, but it obviously costs mana or situational. Sharky, fortunately, did have 1 piece of interaction as well. Tivit went for it. Just played his Tivit, cast Time Sieve. Fortunately, Sharky had the interaction to stop him, stopped him, and he had to pass. Goes to my turn, and this is the juicy bit that really really fun time. I cast a Vamp Tutor on his end step, put Imposter Mech on top of my library. Go to my turn, untap Imposter Mech, cast the Imposter.
I do want to ask with because the Tivit player was in 4th seed. Did you pass on Time Sieve?
Yeah, I had to. He had 2 mana open, and I had Spell Pierce.
Okay. He had the mana open.
Yeah.
Was it treasure? Was it artifact mana though that like would have made a difference or no?
It was 2 colorless mana off of the Grim Monolith, which was interesting because I almost cast a spell. I started to cast a Spell Pierce because he did not represent the floating mana very well. He just had a dice sitting there randomly on the playmat, and that was what was supposed to mark the mana. So I started to cast a Spell Pierce. So I'm like, wait, that's mana, isn't it? And then like, well, I'm not casting Spell Pierce. Yeah, little takesy backsies, but I mean, it wasn't a problem.
I mean, if people don't represent their mana well, it's similar situation happened in my Talion game, my Kinnan versus Talion game against Matt Sperling, where like when I cast my Fluster, he had mana floating, but he had nothing representing it, so he called the judge and worked it out. Right.
So in any case, Sharky interacted, countered the Time Sieve, right, and put it in the graveyard. So I put Imposter Mech on top of my library, go to my turn, draw the Imposter Mech, play the Imposter Mech, clone the Tivit, all right, create a couple treasures, cast Meme Betrayal. Right, they try to counter the Meme Betrayal. I have the Spell Pierce to back it up. Right, I cast Time Sieve from the graveyard. Right, cast a couple of unimportant rocks, including a Jeweled Lotus and like a Lotus Petal or whatever. Sack what I need to activate the Time Sieve. At that point, Dan Deadly Relics my Talion, and I needed the Talion at that point because the Talion is what was going to pilot the Tivit to attack and get the loop going. And I didn't have enough mana to recast Talion at that point. Fortunately, what I did have in my hand was Sakashima the Imposter. Right? So I untap, I cast Sakashima the Imposter, cloning Tivit again, and then I piloted Tivit with Tivit to win the game.
Yep.
Right? And
it was actually such a hot line.
It was so hot. It was so fun.
It's funny. We'd talked about Praetor's Grasp and stuff like that for so long, specifically for the lines of like Clone a Tivit, Imposter Mech, or Praetor's Grasp with Time Sieve. Like we've talked about that line before. I'm glad you finally got to do it in a slightly different way.
Yes, it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was emotional at that point. Like I sat back in my chair, like a little tear streamed down my cheeks a little bit. Like I did it. I got through. I got that win that felt so hard to get, and I knew at that point I was locked in the top 16 and felt real good. Yeah. You on the other hand had a fight going on, like a epic battle on stream, right? The whole thing was on stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my plan for round 7 was to take an ID and draw in, and at this point I had not played Magic yet this morning and was still feeling like garbage, and they released the pods for round 7, and it is myself versus NATO, a player I have the utmost respect for and know how good he is, especially on his main deck Atraxa, into Ian on Devish Crom. I've had many games against Ian, into Gold Sabertooth, who is a person I have never played before, but I've been told by a lot of people how good he is.
Yes.
And I know Ian and NATO are both at 13 points and have to play. There's no question that this game is being played. And I don't even get to put my bag on the table before they say pod 5, you're on stream. I'm like, cool. Let's fucking get it. I sobered up immediately. My mind just said, this is it. This is what I mean though. Like, you don't like being on stream. I love pressure. Pressure locks me in like nothing else. It's the same idea of why I love summoning Dangerous Mountains. When shit is on the line, I lock the fuck in. And going against that pod, against 3 people I know are great, 2 people who I personally know are incredible players who are going to be on the top of their game for this one, I was ready for this one. I said, let's fucking get it. And I'm on the play. Thank God. And I have a crazy track record of every time I play Ian, my hand is good. Every single time I play Ian. And I look at, I think it was second seven. Second seven was not a great hand, but what it had was Beseju, Mana Vault, Elvish Spirit Guide, One Ring. The other cards were Thorn Mammoth and Perplexing Chimera, and some other irrelevant card. I don't even remember what it was. But so the hand literally is just turn 1, One Ring, hope. But that's something I'm willing to put my hopes on. You know what I mean? That's something I'm like real willing to put my hopes on. So we kept that. NATO awkwardly had to mull down to 3. Ended up keeping a hand that was it was fine because it was Mana Crypt, City of Brass, and Light and Tutor to go get turn 2 Ristic, which is like on a mull to 3, beautiful. You know, like what else could you possibly ask for in a mull to 3? Yeah, that's what you want. Ian kept a hand that was obviously very based around his Bowmasters that he played. And then Gold Sabertooth kept also like 6 or 7 cards in hand. Like obviously just had enough to get going there. But so I turn 1 One Ring. NATO turn 1's his, you know, Mana Crypt, City of Brass. Ian just like goes Mana Crypt, land, sets up mana. And in my brain, I'm like, this guy totally has a Bowmaster immediately. Gold Sabertooth goes, I think he turned 1 Rograk and Thrasios with like land Chrome Mox or whatever, the way it worked out. And I go to my turn, I untap, tap the One Ring, and just look at Ian. Because I just know he has the Bowmaster. And he goes, yep, Bowmaster. I'm like, cool. Kills the Rog. I'm like, all right, whatever. Then I untap, and I go, okay, Chrome Mox pitching. I went to pitch Thorn Mammoth, and I said, actually, that might matter if we're in a Bowmaster game. And I pitched Chimera instead. I also needed blue, not green, so I could get down Kinnan. And then I go...
The whole pod start clapping when you exiled the Chimera? Were they happy?
They were happy about it. They were happy about it. But so then I play Kinnan because I didn't hit another land. So I go Kinnan, Mox Amber, Grim Monolith, Phyrexian Metamorph, copy Bowmaster.
Yep.
And then we go around a turn cycle, and you know, NATO gets his Ristic Study. Ian just like plays mana. His hand was obviously based on that Bowmaster. And then Gold Sabertooth goes and he plays a Metamorph.
Oh no.
And copies the Bowmaster. And then I untap and play Flesh Duplicate to copy the Bowmaster. So we're 3 turns into this game and there's already been 4 Bow Daddies. You know what I mean? Like that's where we're at. Yeah. And I'm drawing cards in my One Ring at this point. You know what I mean? This is turn 3, turn 4, turn 3, I think. Yeah. And what ends up happening now. This Gold Saber had a Bowmaster, and there was a Ristic Study on some things as well. They were able to get enough pings to kill my Kinnan, which was very awkward for me because my mana, like I'd already used Mana Vault and Grim Monolith, so they're just tapped. And I had a Mox Amber that now doesn't work. And so all I have is 2 lands and a Chrome Mox. So I'm actually like really shut down from a mana perspective, which, you know, whenever I talk about Kinnan, like mana is the most important thing. They did do a very good job bottlenecking me on the ability to have mana. And I tried to convince Sabertooth to not swat the ping, because when he went when I went to ping his Bowmaster, he swatted on my ping, and I immediately I showed him, which we ended up I mini rifted his Metamorph, which was a mistake. I could have just used the ping from the draw from SWAT to kill his Bowmasters. I didn't need to Psych Rift it. That was a mistake. But then after that, with the Deflecting Swan in the stack, I'm like, look, just don't kill my Kinnan. Like, if you want to kill the Bowmasters, that's fine. Get the Bowmasters off the board, but don't kill my Kinnan. I have 3 cards in hand and a Fierce. And so I show him I have the Fierce. I'm like, this is all I got for interaction. Like, do not make me lose this. And the other cards in my hand were like Arcane Signet, Thorn Mammoth, Thrasios. And so I showed my hand, and I guess he was scared of the Thrasios, which was surprising to me because he was like, oh, he has part of an A+B in his hand. And I immediately was like, it's a Thrasios. like that's the worst of any of the pieces towards any combo. It doesn't actually do anything. But I ended up having to kind of like pass there. I think, did I play Thrasios? I think I played the Thrasios because then it at least turned on my Gaia's Cradle and Mox Amber. That might have been the following turn, something like that. This game went a bunch of turns where like we kind of just developed and passed for like a while. And so I ended up playing the Thrasios. It might have been the following turn, which like made my Gaia's Cradle tap for mana, made my Mox Amber function again, so I was able to start building back a little bit. And then I was able to tap for an Arcane Signet as well, get down a little bit more mana. And at this point, NATO had also Imperial Seal the turn before, and what he got was Bowmasters. Because Gold Sabertooth, when he replayed his Metamorph, had it come in as a 1-ring. So now there's 2 1-rings on the battlefield, and now NATO has Bowmasters, the whatever 6th, 5th, whatever Bowmaster of the game. And so that goes around another turn cycle. And at this point, I'm looking at my hands, and I have Hullbreaker Horror, but no one's gone for shit yet. And I'm like, there's no way I'm sending this right now. There's absolutely no way. So I just tap down of everything besides 1 mana, and I just play Thorn Mammoth. And I say, let's get this Bowmaster off the battlefield, because I need to tap my 1-ring to draw 5 cards. I have to do it, but I cannot lose my Thrasios. Not because it's a Thrasios, just because it's a legend for the Mox Amber and a creature for my Gaia's Cradle. And if I lose my mana production, then I have no lines in this game. So I have to keep Bowmasters off the battlefield so I can keep gaining card advantage to give me any realistic shot at being able to find a win. So I play my Thorn Mammoth, kill his Bowmasters. No one has nothing for it. We go to NATO's turn. His hand has been just filled with Rhystic Study draws. He ends up just like playing a Mox Opal that doesn't even work yet, discarding to hand size and passing to Ian. You know, Ian got really shut down this game. Going back just kind of a few turns of discussion, he played his Tevish early. We pinged down all of his Thralls. He ended up in a point where his Crom got pinged down by 1-ring tap when there was nothing else to kill on board, when NATO played a Bowmaster. Like, there was just nothing else to kill. And so Ian just kind of got like the shit end of a stick on a lot of these things. And then when I went to combat with my 11/11 one turn, because I had an 11 power Bowmaster token, I told NATO, I was like, if I swing this at Ian, will you not swing your 5/5 at me? He goes, bet. And I was like, cool. Sorry, Ian, I'm just going to get you below 20. He was at 28, took him down to 17.
Rough.
Like, look, I just don't want to get got by a Nas here. Like, you know what I mean? It's not trying to attack him personally because he's a threat or anything. It's just don't leave the opening for the win the game outs.
Yeah,
the one comment I didn't
sucks.
like.
Yeah, that's rough. It's rough. Yeah, but
yeah. The one comment I didn't like this game was at one point I started just like counting dockside count, whatever it would hypothetically be. There wasn't a dockside, no one had tutor for it. There was no inclination that there was a dockside, but the count was stupid. And I know that Tevish Ram and Rog Thras are both like crazy dockside decks. And so, you know, I'm counting and I'm like, oh, 9, that's a fuckload of treasures. And I'm looking at NATO and I'm like, let's just be aware that there could be a dockside. Like, we do probably lose the game to a dockside. And Ian told me to stop fear-mongering, which I didn't like that he said it. which I didn't say. Yeah, I know, but do you recognize the difference? It's one thing if I pointed at him and said you have a dockside and I know it. All I said was let's be aware there could be a dockside and it's going to be crazy. You know, I was just bringing up awareness that is something we need to be prepared for. And on the following turn cycle, Gold Sabertooth, Archdruid Charm tutors for dockside, and Ian even says to him, he goes, "Man, don't go for it here. We're gonna stop you, and then Max is gonna win." And Gold Sabertooth says, "I'm winning right now."
Based.
Cast Dockside. I have nothing for a dockside. I pass. NATO says, "I don't have anything for this." And Ian goes, "Come on, man." You know, because NATO's got a full grip of Rhystic draws at this point. And Ian puts down the Spell Snare on the dockside. Gold Sabertooth uses a Pact. NATO uses a Fluster. Gold Sabertooth also has a Fluster. But NATO has the mana to pay for his Fluster. And where Gold Sabertooth did miss something here was he didn't point any of the Flusters at the Spell Snare. He only put them on his
the
Fluster.
Fluster Storm, yeah.
He flustered the Fluster and just forgot about the Spell Snare. If he put some at the Spell Snare, his dockside would have actually resolved. So he did miss that line there. It still wouldn't have, because the one thing NATO did have was a Pact of Negation. And when they were talking about countering the dockside, Ian asked to see NATO's hand. And NATO said, "I'm not showing you my hand." And it wasn't because he had a deterministic win line in it. It was because he didn't want Ian to make him use the Pact, because he was hoping to be able to go for a win attempt on his next turn. And he figured he could save the Pact. Which is fair. He never said like he had like, you know, nothing, but like he didn't want to show Ian the Pact. And what that signaled to us as the table, though, was you have win in hand if it gets back to your turn. So we were like very aware of NATO just like having a disgusting hand as well. But so we have this fight. Gold Sabertooth gets stopped, and he does ask us specifically. He asks us, "Oh, have you cast 3 spells?" And no, like NATO, you know, people had only cast 2, and so no one individually cast 3 spells. So his Mind Break Trap was not active, but it let me know that he had a Mind Break Trap, which was very important. And so he gets stopped. I untap. I draw my 6 cards, and I say, "Let's get it, baby." and I do a little bit of math, and I'm like, okay, Kinnan is literally free here because I have 3 rocks and a Gaia's Cradle. So tap my lands for Kinnan, it costs 4 mana, gives me 4 extra mana. I'm like, whatever. So I tap 4 lands, play out my Kinnan. Honestly, didn't even remember the Thorn Mammoth triggers because they didn't fucking matter. And then I just hard cast a Hullbreaker Horror, very specifically as my second spell for turn. To make sure that I can not get MBT, because no one had hard cast MBT mana up. Ian had 3 mana, NATO had 3 mana. Like there was no concern there. So I know Hullbreaker is resolving from this position. I go to cast a Felwar Stone, Hullbreaker Horror trigger, target Mox Amber. NATO casts a mini rift targeting Hullbreaker Horror. In response, I now have 5 creatures on the battlefield. I have Kinnan, Thorn Mammoth, Hullbreaker, Thrasios, and the Bowmaster token. So I free spell Court of Calling X equals 2, spending no mana on it. Bounce the Psych Rift back to his hand, where now he only has 1 mana, and I know he cannot recast it. And I'm pretty sure he does not play Elvish Spirit Guide. And I go to Court of Calling with the plan being to get Spellskite to just protect some other things in the future. Ian Swan Song's the Court of Calling, knowing it's going for Spellskite because Swan Song isn't going to hit mana rocks anyway.
Right.
So probably the correct call. And did I think actually matter, because you could argue he could have saved that for later. But I guess actually Ian had 4 mana. He had Mana Crypt, 2 lands. So he's still leaving up his Brain Freeze, which, by the way, he kind of hinted at having at the end because he was asking for Storm Count at the end of Gold Saber's turn. I think just considering Brain Freezing me or NATO, just to like send 40 cards to the bin, see if we couldn't go for it.
Right.
I already had Endurance in hand though, so I didn't care if he did that. But so yeah, he Swan Songs the Court, so I can't get the Spellskite, which did matter because NATO's later response was then when I cast a recast when I cast the Mox Amber. Now they go, this is the one to Mindbreak Trap. So Gold Saber Tooth Mindbreak Traps my Mox Amber. I say that's totally fine. The Hullbreaker Horror trigger is going to return Mana Vault to my hand. On the board, I have Mana Vault, Grim Monolith, Chrome Mox, Felwar Stone,
everything.
Arcane Signet. Like, I don't care which rock you hit. You need a lot to get through me right now. And I still have more free spells and counter magic in hand, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just like, all right, can we move on now? And really importantly, I have a Trinisphere in hand. And you can combo through a Trinisphere with a Kinnan and a Hullbreaker Horror if you have Mana Vault and Grim Monolith. But I needed to get to a point of having enough mana to start that loop while playing the Trinisphere first. And I wasn't there yet, because I also had to pay for Rhystic Study triggers. And Mana Vault with just Chrome Mox does inherently pay for Rhystic, because Mana Vault plus Chrome Mox plus playing for Rhystics costs a collective 3, and a Mana Vault by itself taps for 4. So like that by itself just goes infinite, paying for Rhystic every time. So I start trying to do that. I cast the Mana Vault again. He goes to Swords of Plowshares, the Hullbreaker Horror, tapping himself out. I then Endurance, shuffle my own graveyard to the bottom, specifically do it where I put the Endurance into the graveyard so it goes to the bottom with it. And then I'm like, okay, let's think here. I've cast a good amount of spells, but it's definitely not enough to mill my whole library. Let's cast a Simic Signet from my hand, bounce Ian's Mana Crypt. Force him to float the mana. Makes him float 2 colorless, bounces the Mana Crypt to his hand, and then I cast the Mana Vault and Chrome Mox one more time just to get the Chrome Mox in my hand. So even if the idea was then, even if I have to do something in combat, because I had a Dispel, so if I have to tap Mana Crypt to tap Simic Signet in combat, that still allows me to then start a 0 mana rock after combat to restart the loop again.
Right.
So then I try to move to combat. Yes. So I wanted to have a 0 mana rock in hand, not Mana Vault in hand, so that if for some reason I had to do something in combat where I lose all my floating mana, I would still be able to start the loop, because I had cards that I could just pitch to Chrome Mox, which was fine. So I do that. I try to move to combat. Of course, Ian goes, okay, Brain Freeze. We spend like 5 minutes trying to figure out the storm count for this turn, where I've cast some rocks multiple times and all that kind of stuff. Ends up being a storm count of 15 or 16, where at this point I know that my Endurance is at the bottom section of my library, and I do not care what cards he mills because it is irrelevant to me. So I say cool, and I mill all the cards. I go to combat, I go to post-combat, and then I cast Chrome Mox, pick up the Mana Vault, cast Mana Vault. NATO's Latch Stitch Effort is Pact of Negation. Are you telling me I'm being too slow?
No. I'm like,
that
yeah,
looked like you were hurt. That looked like you were hurting me.
I'm going like,
okay.
yep. He sandbagging that last piece of interaction.
Yep.
And then you start the loop. Yep.
And then I do the Dispel, and then I say, okay, I would like to go infinite in all of these ways. And then I play Trinisphere, and then I start drawing cards with Thrasios activations after I'm safe with Trinisphere, and they go, you're in second main, like, how are you killing us? We're at time now. You know, Finale doesn't work. And I go, oh, I'm milling you out with Cephalid Coliseum, 100%, yeah.
And then how do you make them draw after that?
What do you mean?
How do you make them draw cards?
Cephalid Coliseum.
Oh, yeah.
Player draws
Not milling them out. You're making them draw with... Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I say milling them out, but it's milling them out. Yeah. Cephalid Coliseum makes target player
make them draw.
Discard 3.
Yeah.
So I put a billion triggers of Cephalid Coliseum on the stack target each of them.
So they weren't milling. They were drawing cards and discarding them. But yeah, they died.
Yeah, I just call it milling them out. Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah. But so I got my win. It was bittersweet, honestly, because like Ian and NATO are two of the people that I look forward to playing against in the matches that matter. Like they're two very good friends of mine. Like I deeply care and appreciate both of them. If we were in a position that like all of us were at 16, honestly, I probably offer the draw there, even if it hurts my standing, even with the win on the stack, because like they're incredible players and I want them to be in top 16. So a little bittersweet to knock out two friends on their winning end. But a really cool win, a really good win. Very proud of it. Happy that it was on stream. Got a lot of messages from people about how good that game was and how well I played it. Yeah, and that was awesome. And that meant that going into top 16, I was the 3rd seed overall on a 186 person Punt City event that everyone says is a hard competition. I was like, let's get it, baby. We back on this. We back on the Simic boy. Should I jump into my top 16 game?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go right to top 16. Yeah.
You know how sometimes you play...
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, my top 16 pod was myself on the play, Freedom Waffle, Evan, another buddy of mine in 2nd seat on Tim DeGrom, Trent on Sisse in 3rd seat, and Joseph Roman on Blue Farm in 4th seat as well. You know how sometimes you play a game that you're just never meant to win?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have stuck around to hear me talk on the show, but I have a really cool pattern. Where every top 16 game I mulled a 4, and we did that again. And I got at 4 that I was like, you know what? This gives us a chance. This is reasonable. It was Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Mystic Remora, Offer You Can't Refuse. I'm like, I'll get to keep the fish around for 3 turns in this pod. Like, I'll draw some cards. I'll try and dig my way back out. I'm not dead in the water yet, baby. It took me 16 draws to find a mana source. My first 3 draws were Hullbreaker Horde, Nezahal, and Fierce, and then it just, Thorn Mammoth, Void Winnower, Fabricate, whatever, like nothing that was mana. 16 draws, and I did the math on it. That is likely to occur about 2 times out of every 1,000 games if you do the math on that statistic from what I had in hand and how many hits they were. And in the math I was including like Mana Crypt and Chrome Mox and stuff like that in the count as a land.
Kinnan was pissed at you, dude. Kinnan was angry at you because now you have won a tournament on Talion and you've won a tournament on the Mimeoplasm and you haven't won a tournament on Kinnan.
I did win a tournament on the Mimeoplasm. But yeah, so that was frustrating. Not because, I will never be mad about a game that I lose for getting outplayed. Like, if I play a good game of Magic and I lose, like, that's fine. Obviously, I prefer to win, but, like, I'm never bothered by games that I lose where someone just got me. You outplay me, good for you, man. But the games that I don't even get to play frustrate me. So like looking back on even like my Chaos Finals where I lost on, I didn't get a turn 2, like stuff like that. All my repeated Finals games where I got dunked on by the person on the play on turn 3 and I just like didn't really get to play a game of Magic. Those are the ones that really annoy me because it's not me doing anything wrong. It's just the deck telling me to go fuck myself.
Yeah.
And then every single time this happens, it's always against Waffle, and then he tells me that I need to take out the colorless lands so my deck mulligans better, but my deck mulligans great all the time, and then just fucks over when I'm in these top 16 games. So I don't know. That game is really frustrating, just for that not getting to play it perspective. Waffle got bothered at one point on like the politics, which we talked about after we had a discussion about it, where Sisse was obviously the threat. But he was the threat in a way where, yes, he is getting close to doing things that could deterministically win the game. But at the same time, in the background, Waffle has multiple draw engines on board with, like, Rhystic Study and stuff, and is drawing a lot of cards and has a good amount of mana on board. And I'm like, just recognizing, like, again, I agree, Sisse is a problem, but we can't just let you run away with it either. You know what I mean? And then what ended up on the final turn of this game, which I think it was a pump by Waffle, honestly. He on his turn, his last turn before Sisei's turn, where Sisei had a bunch of treasures for Smothering Tide, cast Silence, got countered, and said, "Oh, I'm not going for it, but just cast the Silence." And then, if he had saved the Silence, and we fought over that on Sisei's turn, we got another turn. So I don't know why he did that there, because he could have done the Silence so that Sisei wasn't able to be cast and guaranteed that we got another turn. And with Sisei having a deterministic win on board of 13 treasures from a Smothering Tithe, like, we obviously fight to protect that Silence. And so I don't think he should have just thrown out the Hail Mary Silence in his turn to see if it resolves, see if I can go for it, especially because he didn't even have a deterministic win. He just had Breach and a Wheel of Fortune. So I think that was a little bit greedy to just throw out the Silence. But yeah, so Sisei won that game where we stopped Waffle Silence, and then he just played out random stuff, I think like Crom and such, and said, "I don't have anything, pass." And then Sisei untapped and unimpededly won.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was the game, which, I mean, I didn't give a shit who won that game. I wasn't winning that game. I was literally laughing with the judges because I had the thickest hand in the world. I drew an heuristic study immediately. So on turn 4, when I couldn't pay for my fish because I didn't have mana, I then played a talisman that I finally drew off my Ancient Tomb. And then the following turn played a heuristic study.
And drew more cards and still didn't find
and drew more cards and still didn't find a land.
Wow.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. I was angry at you, man. Angry at you. But still,
sure.
Good run, dude. Good run. You can't feel bad about it. Sometimes you get what you get. You know, can't control every bit of variance, and sometimes your deck just says "fuck you."
I would like if it did that in the Swiss rounds, though, and not the
No, I don't want it to do
ones.
it at all. I want my deck to never say "fuck you." I want my deck to always be my friend and be close to me.
That's what I've liked about Talion, though. Talion is so consistent because you just always have card advantage attention, so it's really nice.
That's the kind of deck I like.
I've mulled a 3 on Talion and just kept like laying Jewel Lotus Talion, and like I draw some cards.
Yeah, and Talion was like that the whole weekend. Like I mulled really low. I had like multiple games where I mulled a 4 and still won 2 of them, I believe. Won 2 games where I mulled a 4. Like the deck, performed extremely well. Felt really good about it. The only big change I made was last minute I took out Wandering Archaic that I was playing with that I liked and put in Notion Thief and never saw it.
I convinced you of that.
Yeah, a lot of people did. A lot of people said I should do it, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Sure.
Never saw it, never really wanted it, so it didn't matter. But in any case, I went into my top 16 pod, and it was literally the worst possible scenario.
Whose Notion Thief did I borrow? I still have that.
Whose Notion Thief was that?
Was that Scorish's?
Yeah. Scorish's Notion
I think it was Score. I'll message him. I'll message him right when we're done with this. I still have his Notion Thief. I'll see. I'll see if I can buy it off.
Everybody has everybody else's cards right now. Like it's hilarious.
Your buddy still has my fucking Winding Canyon. So.
Yeah. Don't worry, we got that figured out. But yeah, so I went into my top 16 pod and it was like the worst possible scenario for me. I was triple Grixis pod. It was Rogsai in first seat, Zane. Fuck. I was in second seat. Not too bad. Third seat was Tad on Rogsai, fuck. Yeah. And then in fourth seat was Malcolm Vile Smasher player. And before I start talking about this, I want to be clear. Like sometimes these are, difficult things to talk about, and we're faced with a choice. We can go about this 2 ways. I can sugarcoat things and be like, lollipops and rainbows and happy unicorns, or I can be honest and I can say, like, when someone plays bad, they played bad, right? And in this situation, the guy in fourth seat on Malcolm Vile Smasher played bad, and I apologize if that pisses some people off when I say it and when I talk about it. But do you want me to bullshit you, or do you want me to tell you the truth? So I'm going to tell you the truth. So I get to a decent hand pretty quickly. That was going to be a turn 2 Talion and a turn 1 Bloodchief's Ascension, as well as some good interaction. And when I look at a Rogsai pod like that, where I have double Rogsai pods, my whole plan is I have to put pressure on life totals immediately. I need to hold up counter magic, and I need to draw some cards. Like that's the way this needs to go, and it needs to go that way quickly.
Blood Chiefs is especially important though, because while Rog size payoffs are mostly life-based for mass card draw, stuff like Necro and Adnaz and such, and that's their main plans of card advantage, their actual win condition, if they can draw into or tutor for a breach line. When I was playing Rog size, like I've won with breach at 1 life
100%.
many a times, because it uses no life to execute your breach line. So having specifically Blood Chiefs Ascension against it is incredibly powerful and good.
Yes. Yeah. So I was feeling good about it. I felt like that was the right plan for me. I was going to need some help though, because the way these Rockside pods tend to play out is the Rockside pilots will look to get a draw engine against a mid-range deck like mine, where I think they properly respected the fact that if they tried to go for it too early, it wasn't going to work out. So they leaned back into a little bit slower plan, which I think was correct. But they draw each other so many cards. So like I knew this was going to get out of hand very quickly. So I needed some help. So I was really hoping that the two would play against each other a little bit, and I was really counting on the Malcolm Vial Smasher deck to help me put some pressure on them and participate in the game. Unfortunately, they mulled to 6 and actually leaned over to Tad and said, "Hey, Tad, or this deck can't mull past 6, so I'm just going to keep the 6 even though it's bad." And all of us kind of looked at each other like, "What do you mean you don't mull past 6? What are you talking about?"
Do you play Rhystic Study? Do you play Mystic Remora?
Yeah.
Do you play?
It was very strange. So it goes to Tad's turn, develops mana. I don't remember if he played a fish that turn, but he eventually played a fish. But in any case, goes to the Vial Smasher player's turn. He goes land, pass. Like, okay, all right, okay, land, pass. All right, we'll get something on the next turn. Zane develops. I drop my Talion. I'm holding up interaction. Blood Chiefs is actually on at the end of my turn already, which is fantastic. I don't do a whole lot. I'm not messing around here. I'm holding up all my interaction. Let's draw some more cards, pass. Nothing special happens. Goes to the Vial Smashers. Second turn, he goes land, pass. And at that point, I'm like, wait, what is happening here? And he's like, I just got nothing. I have nothing. I can't do anything. Like, all right. I guess I'm, at that point, I start to realize that my chances of winning that game were very, very low. Very, very low. I don't know whether it was that turn or the turn after. Both Tad and Zane had draw engines on board. One had fish, one had Rhystic, and neither of them were paying for anything. So, they're playing stuff, drawing each other cards, going back and forth. And it was very clear to me that I was not going to be able to keep up with both of them.
Well, I think their plan is probably draw each other cards, and whoever decides to go for it first gets stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it goes to Zane's turn. Zane time twists. Yes, time twister. Which is I'm totally fine with that. Totally on board with that. It doesn't bother me at all. Except for the fact that in response, Tad Odawars my Blood Chiefs Ascension. The Blood Chiefs Ascension goes back to my hand, gets twisted away. That piece was really important and is now gone. All right, but I still have some interaction. I'm still okay. Like I can still stay in this game. I can still put life pressure with Talion. Like I'm still here. I'm still in the game. Goes back around again. Vial Smasher finally does something by playing his third land, plays his Malcolm, passes. That's it. That's like it. That's all he did, right? Nothing.
I mean, at that point, you've had your hand time twisted, so it is just a random hand. That's nothing
Sure. And his first attack with Malcolm, I was at 44 life, and I'm trying to put pressure on Tad, who's drawn the most cards out of all of us. And he's like, yeah, I'll attack you. Attacks me. And I look at him, I'm like, dude, why? What are you doing? You're attacking me. I'm at 44 life. Like my life is meaningless in this game. The Rockside players are not going to pressure my life total. That's never going to happen. You're never going to beat me down with a 2/2. Like the only thing that we could do here is put life pressure on them, make it harder to do what they need to do. And he just wasn't hearing it. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to, he was very defensive, and swung at me anyway. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. He swung twice that whole game, both times at me. And at the end of the game, Tad won at 3 life. So just put it into perspective. But in any case, game goes on. Goes to Zane's turn. Zane casts a Conqueror's Flail. Here we go. I can't answer it. He goes to equip the Conqueror's Flail, and I drop it to Shauna's Tidebinder onto the battlefield. Right. And you could tell I got him. Like, that was not what Zane was expecting. And he kind of reeled back in his chair. But he actually did have the answer in that he had a Bowmaster in hand. So he cast the Bowmaster to kill the Tidebinder. So cast Bowmaster, put a ping on the Tidebinder. At that point, Tad looks over at me. It's very clear to both of us that Zane is winning right now, right? And neither Tad nor I have the counter magic to stop him. The only thing I had left at that point, I think, was like a Dispel. I had a Dispel, I think, in hand at that point, which is all I had that could do anything. And Tad goes, well, I have this Vamp Tutor, and shows me the Vamp Tutor. And he says, if you could draw me a card, I can get a Deflecting Swat. And I can use the Deflecting Swat to save the Tidebinder. Right. And, the wording was, there was some, I don't remember the exact wording, but it was very clear to me. And I think it was very clear to everyone that he was, we were talking about him getting a Deflecting Swat, and he was going to get a Deflecting Swat with the Vamp Tutor. So I'm like, all right, if I'll cast a spell, draw you a card, you go get the Deflecting Swat. Right. So I cast the Dark Ritual. He casts Vamp Tutor. He goes and draws the Born Upon a Wind that he put on top of his library. Cast the Born Upon a Wind. He has the I forget what he had, Mental Misstep, I believe, on my Dispel, and gets the Born Upon a Wind on the stack, proceeds to win the game right over top of Zane. Now, is it lying? Sure, yes, it's lying. But in that particular situation,
I will say we do need to know exact wording to actually deterministically say if it was
doesn't,
lying. Just to be clear.
I mean, I think it's fair to say it's close enough but I'm not mad about it. Like, I'm not mad about it. And the reason I'm not mad about it is this. If he doesn't do anything there, we die to Zane, right? And he had asked to see my hand when I was trying to work with him to stop Zane. And I had a deterministic win in my hand with the Meme Betrayal. So I told him, no, I'm not showing you my hand. Right. And at that point, if he tells the truth, gets a Deflecting Swat, he loses to me. If he lies and gets the Born Upon a Wind, that's his only way to survive the game. And if I don't agree to the deal, then I definitively lose anyway. And there's no draw scenario here. The draw situation in this particular tournament was that if the semifinals match goes to a draw, then the winner is determined by seeding order, which is a little bit different than what they've done in the past, which means if
Zane.
Right. So if I force a draw there at that point by not doing it, then I'm giving Zane the draw anyway. I'm giving Zane the win anyway. So there's no out here. There's no out here for me at all. Right. So I have to accept the deal. I have no choice, because if I don't accept the deal, I lose to Zane. If I do accept the deal, I'm basically just relying on him, deciding to lose to me instead. So it was what it was. And to Tad's credit, he played that game super well, super tight, and took it down. Went on to win the whole event after that. So it was what it was. But it was a great tournament. I felt great about it. I wasn't even mad at losing there. Yes, I really wanted to make the top 4, but going into that pod, looking at double Grixis, Grogsai, Turbo
Grixis.
Hell, triple Grixis, but really double Grixis Turbo, my chances of pulling a win out of there were pretty rough. And there's some tech changes I could have. You could choose to do some small things differently with Talion that I think are better against, turbo decks. Like, Wandering Archaic is probably better in that matchup, or
I mean, so is Notion Thief also would have been amazing there,
It would just died to the Bowmaster that's in his hand, so it wouldn't have worked. But
right, but realistically, early on when they had the draw engines,
yeah,
they didn't
sure,
have a Bowmaster.
sure.
That was later. What I mean? Like, Notion Thief would have been fantastic.
I was never in a position where I could hold up enough mana for that. But if I think about things like Arcane Laboratory, like there's a lot of things that you could look at that are better against turbo pods. But regardless,
I don't want.
All beside the point. We don't need to talk deck tech.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk deck tech.
Yeah.
Regardless, it was a tough pod, and I didn't expect to. It's gonna be a real uphill battle to win it. So I was fine. Felt good. I thought I put up a good showing. Talion's a great deck. And I feel great. And now I'm, number 12 on the leaderboard on top deck, circuit. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm back at number 3. So actually, when I rewatched my round 7 game, they talked about how this game, me versus Ian, had legitimate leaderboard implications, because Ian was number 3, I was number 4. If I win, I knock him out of top 16, which guarantees I jump him.
Nice. So congratulations, dude. Number 3.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
We bronze, bro. It was a good event. Annoying for the way it came to a close, but then, I mean, had another fantastic night afterwards. Went to Mizu Asian Bistro, got that awesome unagi eel bowl, which was so good. Also, it's my favorite food in the world. For those who do not know, unagi eel is my clear number 1, bar none. It's fucking delicious, man. That shit is so good. Yeah. And then we came back and just like jammed games for a while.
Played some Florian, right?
Played some Florian. And I do want to bring this up just in case for anyone who is listening to this right now, who was at Punt City 3, specifically there on Sunday in the evening when people were playing some games and grabbing their stuff and leaving. Please check and ask your friends if any of them accidentally took my blue and green Melanzana hoodie. The one that I wear at every single event, the one that all of the pictures of me are in. That is a very important piece of clothing to me. I've had it for quite a while. It has a ton of sentimental value. It's been on countless incredible adventures with me. I really want it back. I really, really want it back. And I'm pretty sure someone just accidentally grabbed it when they were picking up their stuff and leaving, because it was sitting right next to me. And when we went to leave, it was gone. So I think it was just accidentally grabbed. I don't think it was just malicious intent of someone taking it. But like, please, I will pay a reward. I will legitimately pay a reward to get it back. Like I really want that hoodie again, and it's not one that I can just get another of. For anyone who knows Melanzana, it's like you have to set up an appointment to shop there. It's not something you can just do. It's a small company in Leadville, Colorado, a few hours away. So yeah, if people could please check, so I would really appreciate it. I really want that hoodie back. It means a lot to me. So yeah, please just double check if you can. Yeah, it's really frustrating.
So quickly, like before we move on, like let's do a quick meta breakdown of the whole tournament, because it was pretty interesting. Let me pull it up here. I already had it, but I lost it. There it is.
Right, 22 fucking blue farms. Jesus Christ.
So, blue farm domination continues. Sisse passed Kinnan though. More Sisse entries than Kinnan entries by 1, which is interesting, and they significantly higher conversion rate as well.
I mean, per usual, I was the only Kinnan that made it.
Yeah, I was the only Talion that made it as well, which is we gotta do better, guys.
So
Come on.
Quick breakthrough. There were 22 blue farms. 4 of them made top 16. There were 12 Sisses. 3 of them made top 16. So already right there, 7 out of the 16 top 16 players were blue farm and Sisse. 11 Kinnans. Only myself made it. There were 9 Rog size. Zane and Tad made it. There were 7 Talions. 1 made it, which 7 Talions is an impressive stat to randomly pull out here. 7 Tibbets. 0 made it. 6 Nagilas. 2 of them made it. 6 Crom Tevish. 0 made it. 5 Rog Thrasios. That deck has randomly been picking up a lot. 0 made it. 0 of each of these, but 4 Eurikos, 4 Malcolm Timnas, 4 Dargo Thrasios, 1 Malcolm Vile made it, the guy in your pod, out of 3. 3 Thrasios Akiri, 3 Atraxa, 3 Timna Thrasios, 3 Tana Timna, 3 Malcolm Kedis, 3 Elsha, 1 Corvold out of 2 made it, 1 Krarksaka out of 2 made it, and I believe that's your whole top 16. Then it's a bunch of decks that were single or 2.
Yep.
That was the meta.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a little bit of a shift, because I think Sisse moving up, and I really think that's because we've been in such mid-range hell for the last few months, and Sisse is kind of uniquely positioned to navigate that with its, just ability to avoid interaction overall. So it kind of makes sense to me.
Sisse, it avoids Rule of Law, it avoids casting spells, so it's not one of those decks that dies to going off in a storm turn where you just draw people cards in a Ristic Study. Like, it really just plays under it extremely well.
Yeah, and Kinnan, I think, has fallen off a good bit also because it's been so targeted right now. I mean, everyone sees Kinnan in the pod and everyone panics a little bit, and it's a tough road for Kinnan right now.
I mean, I think people just play the deck wrong though.
That's possible.
Like, you just have to adjust. Look at my round 7 game. My Kinnan gets pinged down, and I don't recast Kinnan until the turn I'm ready to win the game. But I think a lot of people just like randomly cast Kinnan again and hope, and then it dies, and then you're just like hindering yourself. Develop in other ways. Do your other things. You don't need Kinnan. Kinnan is not the gas that starts the engine. He's the nitrous that lets it go full speed.
Fair. Yeah. So maybe sign up for some coaching from Max. Maybe.
Yeah, if you're interested in CEDH coaching.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But
I did get a message. I got a message.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a literal message from a guy who I did coaching with a couple of months ago this morning, who was like not winning games and really struggling, and he messaged me just letting me know that since our coaching session, they are 5 weeks into Calgary's CEDH league season, and he has been firmly positioned at number 1 every single week.
Nice. Very nice.
Always
nice.
Feels good.
Yeah, and then the Rogsai pile here. There's 9 Rogsai entries, and you'll notice if you look through the meta of tournaments, like there's either a bunch of them or there's none of them, and that's because of the shadowy organization known as the Cabal. And the Cabal was out in force at Punt City 3. I think they do this.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Yeah. So I think that's the Cabal thing. So. There you go. In any case, there are 9 Rogsais, and they were there, and they were, they did their thing, and obviously just Tad and Zane made it, but the others made some waves as well. So congrats to those guys. Okay,
I'm curious. Were any other Talions close?
Yes,
there was another 3-win
17.
Talion. There was another
17.
Yeah. There was
very close.
There was a 3-win Talions, and there were 3 other 2-win Talions, compared to Kinnan. Where Kinnan, there was 1 other 2-win Kinnan, and that's it.
Yep.
Jesus.
A little bit rough.
Okay.
A little bit rough.
Yeah, a little rough, guys.
But, on to the next. We have tournaments coming up. The Cowtown Showdown's coming. That's going to be massive, and yeah.
It's going to be awesome in June. It's the biggest one ever, 256. Sold out in like 2 hours.
It's going to be hot.
Crazy.
It's going to be hot.
Crazy.
Well, I think
I'm so excited.
That's it for us, man. I think we covered everything. Have we missed anything? I don't think so.
No, I think that's it's been a while. It's probably good for today.
Yeah, it's a lot. So we had a great time, Max. It was so good seeing you, man. Had a good
Always
time.
A pleasure. Always a pleasure.
I appreciate the piggyback ride right from the beginning, which you'll all see in the thumbnail. So enjoy.
Oh yeah, Waffle got a good pic of us.
A good one.
Get that picture.
Real good one.
Yeah, a really good picture of us. Yeah.
All right. Well,
dude, I gave a lot of piggyback rides, and I don't know why I tried to arm wrestle all the big people.
You did try to arm wrestle me. I have to admit, you almost fought me there. It was pretty impressive.
But like I
was like, damn, I have to try. Shit. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Max, you want to take us out of here, man?
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to the Colors of a Crutch podcast. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I was joined by my daddy satellite, Max P, the Talion man. If you enjoy our content, please do not forget to like and subscribe. If you want to support us even more, you can check out our Patreon in the description below, where we have all kinds of different tiers and fun perks for you. If you want to join the conversation outside of the YouTube show, we also have a Discord. You can find a link to that also in the description below. And if you're interested in CEDH coaching, that is something I offer. Please hit me up on Discord, where you can find me as Wounded Satellite, most easily probably found through our Discord, and we can set something up for you and get that going. I think that's all we have for today, so thank you so much for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.